I am invincible after awakening the Superman gene. Chapter 21. Hiss. Seeing this skill, Chinmo's eyes lit up suddenly. I didn't expect that the skill awakened after the breath reaches the second threshold is actually this. Exhale to condense ice. As the name suggests, the temperature of the air Chinmo exhales is extremely low and can directly condense into ice. Compared with the first skill turtle breath, it can be said that there has been a qualitative leap. Of course, tortoise breath is also very important, not a tasteless skill. Only when enough air is inhaled and transformed by the lungs can the cold air with extremely low temperature be blown out. Moreover, the turtle's breath can play an unexpected role at certain times, such as under deep water. Chinmo couldn't wait to try out his new skills, so he hurriedly found a bathroom nearby. After entering, Chinmo turned on the faucet, took a deep breath, then activated his skills, and exhaled slowly. The temperature in the bathroom dropped rapidly, and the gurgling sound from the faucet gradually turned into a ticking sound, and then gradually became smaller until it disappeared completely. He saw an icicle appearing in front of his eyes. It was crystal clear, and there was white air around it. Although the faucet was not frozen, it was covered with a faint layer of hoarfrost. Chinmo's eyes moved, and he quietly activated the perspective, looking through the ice layer to see the inside of the condensed icicle. There is still water flow inside, and this layer of ice just condenses the water on the surface, but not all of it condenses. However, this is already amazing enough. Blowing one breath can freeze the water, which should be something only awakened elementalists can do, but now Chinmo can do the same. Kachacha. The faucet was not turned off, and the temperature of the flowing water flowing inside was higher than that of ice, so it quickly broke through the ice layer on the surface. Obviously, with his current ability, it is not enough to cause freezing for a long time. You have to wait until you have accumulated enough light energy points, and the attribute value of breathing has soared, so that you can act like a Superman. Blowing lightly can directly freeze people into ice cubes, exhale vigorously, and even extinguish the sun. Chinmo walked out of the bathroom with bright eyes, and he was quite envious of this kind of ability. A true hexagon fighter is just that, synonymous with invulnerability. So far, his 8 attributes have all reached the second threshold, and each has awakened 2 skills. It has to be said that he grew up very fast, but still need to work hard. The next day, in the afternoon, a certain chess and card room in Lingyun district. When Chinmo arrived here, Limo was already sitting in the old place waiting for him. "Brother, are you ready to be abused by me?" Chinmo sat down opposite him and asked. Hearing this, Limo just raised the corners of his mouth slightly, waved his hands, and said calmly, "Young people, don't be too arrogant, your level is still a little bit worse." "Ha ha ha, brother, that was me the day before yesterday, how can it be compared with today? I have carefully studied hundreds of chess records." While speaking, Chinmo grabbed a handful of chess pieces and began to guess first. "Then let me see how much progress you have made." Limo didn't care at all. Soon, the guessing ended first, and the chess game began. Chinmo got the backhand and held the white pieces. The crisp sound of chess pieces falling on the chessboard was like the rolling of pearl curtains. Like this, half an hour passed in a blink of an eye. Limo frowned tightly, looking down at the chessboard in front of him. The sunspots in his hands couldn't fall down no matter what. The chessboard is almost full of black and white twins, and it has reached the final stage. Judging from the current situation, Limo's situation is over. He had been thinking for 10 minutes before his right hand slowly dropped, but the chess pieces did not land on the board. "Call." Mao Cheng-li let out a sigh of relief, raised his head to look at Chinmo, and said slowly, "I lost." He didn't want to believe the result, but he really lost. Before Chinmo could speak, he said, "One more dish." Ever since, another half hour passed in the blink of an eye. Limo lost the chess game again. He looked up in astonishment, and asked in disbelief, "How is this possible? Why is your level much higher than the day before yesterday?" Hearing this, Chinmo frowned, and said with a smile, "Brother, I have already said that I have carefully studied hundreds of chess records after I went back. Even so, it's impossible to have another game." Limo was extremely puzzled. Seeing him like that, Chinmo would not refuse. The two sides began to make moves again, and soon the fight was inextricably linked. Limo's speed of making moves is getting slower and slower, and the time of thinking is getting longer and longer, as if he is about to gradually fall into defeat. He couldn't understand why Chinmo had such an obvious change in just 2 days. Did you really answer that sentence? Farewell to Shishi for 3 days, treat each other with admiration. The chess game started quickly and ended quickly. The smile on Li Mo's face no longer existed. He fought 3 sets fiercely, but lost 3 sets in a row. He was almost numb. You boy, really surprised me. Haha, brother, how are you? Are you still coming? Chinmo's eyebrows trembled, and he was in a very good mood now. The last time he was murdered by Li, he didn't leave anything behind, but this time he finally found his way back. Hearing his words, Li Mo glared at him, and said in a bad tone, "What else are you here for? Go to dinner, today is your treat." Ahem, well. Chinmo rubbed his nose, but he didn't expect that his wallet was about to collapse after he found his place again. However, he can still afford a meal. Speaking of which, I've known my brother for so long, and I haven't asked my brother's name yet. The two got up and walked outside, when Chinmo suddenly asked. Hearing this, Li Mo thought about it, but in the end he didn't choose to hide his real name, and said, "My surname is Li, and each character is a conspiracy. A gentleman seeks the way, my brother is such a good name. My name is Chinmo, Mo from Molu." Chinmo reported his name without thinking too much. Hearing his casual praise, a smile reappeared in the corner of Li Mo's eyes. I didn't expect this kid to be a sycophant. Still, a very interesting and talented young man. Ever since he became the head of the Li family in Qingyang and shouldered the burden of the family, he hadn't met someone like Chinmo for a long time. When he was with him, Li Mo's heart was always calm. Although he lost to Chinmo in the Go game this time, the relationship between the two has become closer by 3 points. Afterwards, Chinmo followed him to find a small restaurant by the side of the road. After dinner, it was getting late, and the two of them went home after leaving. Walking on the side of the road, Chinmo received a call from Su Yin, informing him that Li Yuan had been discharged from the hospital and the 7th group would officially start work tomorrow. The team leader has finally been discharged from the hospital, so remember to bring the USB flash drive tomorrow. After hanging up the phone, Chinmo thought in his heart. The cracking program he made that day is stored in the USB flash drive. Tomorrow, when Li Yuan is at work, I will borrow her authority. While thinking, Chinmo focused his eyes and opened the awakening panel. Eyesight, 29. Listening, 19. Intelligence, 19. Breathing, 19. Strength, 31. Speed, 26. Recovery, 20. Defense, 25. Skills, holographic vision, perspective, radar, thermal imaging, deliberate punching, instant steps, thoughts like springs, hardening, tortoise breath, rapid healing, fighting cattle across mountains, extreme speed of sound, steel body, clear at a glance, supersonic, quick return god, breathe out ice. Light energy points, 16, freely assignable. Looking at the full skill bar, a faint smile appeared on Chinmo's face. This is the strength he was able to get close to. Moreover, today's light energy points have been accumulated again. Looking at the values of various attributes on the panel, Chinmo still added 3 points to his eyesight and strength respectively, and the warm current quickly spread to his eyes and whole body, strengthening him in some way. There are still 10 light energy points left, because the new skill exhalation Ningbing has been awakened on breathing, which made Chinmo realize the importance of breathing. Therefore, he added 3 points to breathing, speed, and defense respectively, and lost the last 1 point to intelligence to improve his brain reaction speed and analysis ability. Vision, 32. Skills, perspective enhancement, thermal imaging enhancement. Strength, 34. Skills, deliberately punched and strengthened by fighting cattle across the mountain. Quote. Skill strengthening. Chinmo was slightly stunned. The addition of points this time did not make any attribute reach the 3rd threshold, but 2 attribute skills with more than 30 points were strengthened. The warm current that had dissipated reappeared and quickly spread to his whole body. Chinmo's energy quickly increased, as if adrenaline was surging. He slowly clenched his 5 fingers, and then slowly loosened them. After the warm current disappeared, he let out a long breath. With a thought, the pupils changed, and the perspective skills were instantly activated. Chin Mo raised his head and looked to one side. Behind the rows of neon lights were tall buildings. In his eyes, the walls of tall buildings are in an illusion state, and the figures walking inside, a table and a chair, are clearly visible. But this is not the limit of what Chin Mo can see. Of course, the enhanced skills will not be the same as before. His gaze once again penetrated a wall and looked deeper into the building. Now he is not only able to see through the first floor. Averting his gaze, he walked forward while looking at the men and women passing by him. In Chin Mo's eyes, these people's outer clothes disappeared, their underwear disappeared again, and they turned into naked bodies. Instead of appreciating the broad minds and deep river valleys of these people, he made a perspective again. The skin also turned into an illusion, revealing internal organs and bones. This scene, at first glance, is quite creepy. Chin Mo hastily turned off the perspective, and his body trembled abruptly. The enhanced perspective is more powerful than before, but the more you look at it, the uglier it looks. He tried thermal imaging again, and found that the color distinction was clearer and the layers were more obvious. Because the internal structure of the human body can now be seen, the original thermal imaging has been subdivided again and become more colorful. As for the two skills of strengthening the strength attribute, he put it aside for the time being and did not try it. Without a suitable venue and no suitable opponent, Chin Mo had no choice but to give up temporarily. However, based on perspective and thermal imaging, it is easy to infer how the strengthening of strength is. The current fighting bull across the mountain will not only be able to pass through a layer of obstacles, but the strength of his punches must be able to penetrate even further. However, this strengthening made him have a new discovery. It seems that with the enhancement of various attributes of my body, the threshold for awakening will become higher in the future, and I need to accumulate more light energy points. But strengthening can also be understood as a new awakening. After all, one's own attributes are the most important. When one really grows to the point of Superman, a single punch can blow up a star. Chin Mo thought so in his heart. Before he knew it, he actually had quite powerful strength. Last time in Imperial Hospital, a D-rank awakened steel elementalist could be killed with one punch, so. After growing up during this period, what kind of situation is Chin Mo now? The next morning, the security bureau. Sitting at the familiar workstation, enjoying the just right amount of sunlight, Chin Mo was in a great mood. Calculating the time, he has been resting for nearly a week, but fortunately, it is a paid vacation. Who can refuse it? Now that they have returned to work in the security bureau, that is to say, they can continue to fish in another place. Except for Wang Yan, who is still recovering from injuries in the hospital, the rest of the 7 groups have resumed work. Chin Mo opened the perspective, looked at Li Yuan who was working hard inside, and inserted the USB flash drive in his pocket into the host computer. The program runs automatically, and soon accesses Li Yuan's authority. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised, and then he quietly called up the files about the awakened ones through the internal network. Class D can strengthen the torso. After advancing to C level, until A level, this stage belongs to high-level awakened people, and there will be qualitative changes in the level of strength. Quote. Looking at the small print, Chin Mo nodded secretly in his heart. It seems that it is the same as what I thought before. C level is a threshold, so the next threshold should be S level. He continued to look down. A C level awakened person is perfectly round and harmonious, and there is no obvious weakness. For example, when Li Yuan was at F level, the opponent could attack her abdomen and cause serious injuries easily, because she hadn't strengthened her torso yet. But when she was promoted to D rank, her torso was strengthened, but her neck, head, and some unspeakable parts were also her weaknesses. And if you advance again and reach C level, then these weaknesses will no longer exist, which is why a threshold is divided between D level and C level. B level awakened person. One person can reach 10,000 armies, the deep power of genes is stimulated, the mimetic system can be transformed, the elemental system has been deeply mastered, and the spiritual system is unknown. A level awakened. One person can destroy a city, the gene is fully awakened, and has reached the peak of strength. Chin Mo frowned slightly. If you look at it this way, the high-level awakened people can be said to be one step at a time, and the gap between each level is quite large. It's just that the A level has already fully awakened its genes and reached its peak strength, so what about the higher level S level? He didn't understand. because the introduction of S level was only a short sentence, more precisely 8 words. S level. The body of a demigod, the avenue is natural. This evaluation is quite terrifying. The gap between S and A can be described as the difference between heaven and earth. At this level, it is already extremely powerful, and it is no wonder that it can have a terrifying transcendent status. This is the horror of individual power reaching its peak. It seems that only they know the secrets of S ranks, but there are only a few S ranks in Dokkan, each occupying a high position. How far are they from me? Chin-mo thought to himself, smiled and shook his head. At the same time, he quietly exited the authority and unplugged the USB drive, as if nothing happened just now. At this moment, the 4 awakened people who had resumed work in the 7th group suddenly got up and walked towards the small office together. After knocking on the door, several people entered in a file, and then the door was closed. No one knew what was chatting inside. Su Yin withdrew her gaze, turned around and moved closer to Chin-mo, and asked curiously, "What do you think they are looking for the team leader for?" "Who knows? Maybe it's a matter between awakened people." Chin-mo shrugged and replied casually. "Oh, that's it." Su Yin couldn't help but feel a bit lonely. She only hated that she was not an awakened person, she was not qualified to participate in it, and many things were excluded. This feeling is very uncomfortable. Just when she was feeling sad, Chin-mo had already turned on the perspective and pricked up his ears. "Team leader, Brother Lee has advanced to E level, and you have just been discharged from the hospital. This is double happiness, so we would like to invite you to dinner tonight to celebrate." Hearing this, Li Yuan raised his head to look at the person who spoke, with a cold face as usual, and said lightly, "Have you notified Chin-mo and them?" The man was stunned for a moment, never expecting that Li Yuan would ask this question. How many people are there in Chin-mo? Of course he didn't notify. What can a few ordinary people call up to have a meal together? When the few of them were discussing, they never thought about this level at all. Who would care about Chin-mo and the others? But when Li Yuan asked, he could only squeeze out a smile and said, "Well, for the time being." Before he could say anything, Li Yuan understood what he meant, and she turned to look at Li Changfeng at the side, looked him up and down, and then said, "Your growth rate is good. It is a good thing to advance to E level. It is indeed time to celebrate." A faint smile suddenly appeared on Li Changfeng's serious face, and he felt as if his body was buoyant to be praised by Li Yuan. However, the next moment Li Yuan suddenly changed the subject and said, "However, I won't go." She opened the drawer, took out a black card from inside, handed it to Li Changfeng, and said, "This is the black gold card of Rose Paradise, you can spend it as you like tonight, it is also my heart as the team leader." Li Changfeng took the black gold card in a daze, and the throats of the other 3 rolled in shock. Rose Paradise is a top-notch private restaurant in the imperial capital. People who go there not only need to be rich, but most importantly, to be qualified. And being able to take out a noble black gold card casually, only the children of a 1,000-year-old family can do this. The same surname is Li, but there is a world of difference between these 2 Li, which is even bigger than the gap between A level and S level. Li Changfeng felt a little bit of bitterness in his heart, and thought to himself, what if I advanced to E level? I still can't get into the eyes of the ancient families. If I can enter the circle among the children of these families. However, Li Yuan's indifferent words interrupted his thoughts mercilessly. Is there anything else? Obviously, this is chasing customers. Seeing Li Changfeng walking out of the small office disappointed, Chin-mo clicked his tongue lightly. I'm afraid they don't know that Li Yuan has been promoted to D rank, right? He shook his head and didn't think about it anymore. He put his hands behind his head and changed into a comfortable position to continue basking in the sun and fishing. As for whether he will go to Rose Paradise with Li Changfeng to see the world tonight, that is definitely impossible. Although they were all members of the 7th group, Li Changfeng and the others never regarded Chin-mo and the others as colleagues. Jingle. Just then, the phone rang suddenly. Chin-mo opened it and raised his eyebrows. It was actually a text message from Li Yuan. Wait for me in the underground parking lot after get off work, and promise to treat you to dinner after you are discharged from the hospital. Li Changfeng would never think of it. Li Yuan turned down their invitation 1 second, and asked Chin-mo the next. Obviously, in her eyes, the importance of Li Changfeng's advancement to E level is not as important as her promise. It is her usual style to treat Chin Mo to dinner as soon as she agrees to leave the hospital. Do things cleanly and swiftly. Chin Mo was slightly taken aback, but quickly replied to her with a good word. Afterwards, it was natural to kill time by fishing with peace of mind, and slowly waited to get off work. The clock hanging on the wall was running fast, and it was almost 5 o'clock. Chin Mo turned on the perspective and walked through the wall of the small office, only to see that Li Yuan opened the cabinet just in time, and took out a familiar basin from it again. This seems to be her daily routine, and she has formed a certain habit. Watching her put a pair of white feet into the hot water, and gradually start to relax with her eyes closed, Chin Mo's mouth unconsciously raised a faint smile. Who doesn't want to see more of a beautiful woman who can increase her attack speed? Not to mention, this beauty is extremely contrasting, so it's hard to refuse. After watching for a while, a familiar warm current emerged from his body again, and today's light energy points were accumulated again. Chin Mo opened the awakening panel, ready to start distribution. Eyesight, 32. Listening, 19. Intelligence, 20. Breaths, 22. Strength, 34. Speed, 29. Recovery, 20. Defense, 28. Skills, holographic vision, perspective, radar, thermal imaging, deliberate punching, instant steps, thoughts like springs, hardening, tortoise breath, rapid healing, fighting cattle across mountains, extreme speed of sound, steel body, clear at a glance, supersonic, quick return god, breathe out ice. Light energy points, 15, freely assignable. Still as usual, add 2 points to vision, strength, speed, and defense according to the usual practice. For the remaining 7 points, Chin Mo added 3 points to intelligence and recovery, and 1 point to breathing. Hearing can be put aside for now. Speed, 31, skills, Shunpo, limit sonic enhancement. Defense, 30, skills, hardening, man of steel enhancement. Quote. The 2 new attributes have been strengthened, which is expected by Chin Mo, because speed and defense are second only to vision and strength, and he has not let go of the improvement of these 2 attributes. As the heat flow covered the whole body again, the Superman gene awakening panel he could see in front of his eyes also changed. In the column of skills, Shunpo gradually faded until it disappeared, as did the word limit for limit speed of sound, leaving only speed of sound. This means that Chin Mo no longer needs to increase his speed, he can directly explode at the speed of sound, passing 340 meters in 1 second. However, this is also his current limit. If he wants to break through the threshold of the speed of sound and reach a higher speed, he still needs to wait a little longer. The defense skills are the same, the hardening disappears, it is included in the Man of Steel, and it is promoted to Tier 2 of the Man of Steel. After the skill of Man of Steel is awakened, hardening seems to be less useful. But now that it has been enhanced, it has redisplayed its usefulness. It's just because the 2 skills overlap, so they are included in the Man of Steel. After Chin Mo's current steel body is activated, the whole body's defense is strengthened in all directions without dead ends, which is harder than steel. And he integrated hardening skills, so that under the original strength, the whole body defense can be assembled to a certain place, focusing on the increase. The defensive strength of the boosted area will be several times that of the Man of Steel, and this is the second level of the Man of Steel. With the continuous absorption of the sun's energy, Chin Mo's strength grew faster and faster. Almost every day, there are changes with each passing day. As for where he has grown up to now, and how it compares to high-level awakened ones, Chin Mo doesn't know. After checking the newly strengthened skills, the clock just hit 5 o'clock. Getting stuck at get off work is an essential quality for a fisherman. Chin Mo put away the USB flash drive, tidied up the table, and was the first to walk out of Group 7, heading towards the underground parking lot. Soon, he found Li Yuan's car in the parking lot and stood aside waiting. About 5 minutes later, Li Yuan arrived. After glancing at him, he opened the car door. Chin Mo thought for a while and sat in the co-pilot. The humming sound of the engine sounded. Li Yuan took control of the steering wheel and asked at the same time, "What do you eat? Where do you want to go?" "Well, how about eating barbecue?" Chin Mo thought about it. Hearing this, Li Yuan was slightly stunned, turned to look at him in surprise, and said, "Don't worry about money, you can choose any restaurant in the imperial capital." "Well, let's go eat barbecue. I know a great roadside stall in Lingyun district." The boss's lamb kidneys are delicious. Barbecue, roadside stalls, lamb kidney. Li Yuan never imagined that for the first time in her life, she would go to a roadside stall to eat barbecue while having dinner with a man of the same age. And, her gaze moved down a little imperceptibly, and glanced at Qin Mo's waist, her eyes flickered with meaning. But since it's a dinner treat, let's listen to Qin Mo. Okay, barbecue is barbecue. The car soon stopped at the roadside stall, where Qin Mo and Li Mo had dinner together. Barbecue should be eaten on the side of the road. The smoke and fire of charcoal grilling is the essence, Qin Mo said while pouring her a glass of wine. Looking at the table full of grilled skewers, Li Yuan didn't know what to do for a moment. She rarely eats this kind of thing. Neng, group leader, don't sit still. Hearing this, Li Yuan randomly picked a bunch and put it horizontally to his mouth, and slowly pulled out the stick while biting the meat. Qin Mo looked at her with a smile and asked, "How does it taste?" "It's okay." Li Yuan nodded lightly. Then group leader, you should eat more. Qin Mo cocked his legs habitually. He knew that Li Yuan would definitely like to eat barbecue, just as she likes to eat soy milk and fried dough sticks. Soon, Li Yuan's mouth was stained with oil and seasoning, and Qin Mo handed over a tissue in due course. Actually, the team leader doesn't have to work so hard. Work also requires a combination of work and rest. You don't understand. Li Yuan shook his head. Hearing this, Qin Mo still had a smile on his face, but he didn't take it seriously in his heart. Isn't it just a conflict with the family? Of course he understood why Li Yuan worked so hard, but he couldn't say anything about it. Li Yuan continued to say, I'm different from you. Your family doesn't care about you. You can do whatever you want, but I can't, so I can only fight on my own. But after she finished speaking, she suddenly realized that Qin Mo in front of her was an orphan. Sorry, I didn't mean to. It's okay. Qin Mo waved his hand and said indifferently, when my father was still there, he didn't really care about me. He knew what kind of person I was, and he knew that I had my own plans in my heart. Although my father is gone now, my life doesn't seem to have changed much. It is still the same as before, and I will continue to live like this in the future. This is life, as long as I can be happy, other things can be put aside. Quote, wouldn't you find it boring to live an unchanging life? Li Yuan couldn't help asking. Hearing this, Qin Mo picked up the glass, drank the wine in one gulp, and hiccuped along the way. Afterwards, he looked at Li Yuan, and said with a smile, no, this is the life I chose, since it is my choice, why not just go on unswervingly? Everyone will have ideals in life, but my ideal is to live the life I have now. Quote, make your own choice and go on unswervingly. At this moment, Li Yuan was thoughtful. Hiss, who? Li Yuan took a deep breath of the cigarette, and then slowly let it out. She squinted her eyes, looking at the dots of stars all over the sky, and her thoughts gradually drifted away. After having dinner with Qin Mo, the two soon separated. She drove to a place with few people and enjoyed a moment of tranquility. The cigarette burned very fast, and when the last ash fell, she took out her mobile phone from her pocket and dialed a number that hadn't been called for a long time. After a brief beep, the phone was connected, and Li Mo's voice came from the other end. It's Xiaoyuan, you haven't called me for a long time. Father. Li Yuan let out a faint cry, and then fell into silence. After a long time, she continued, in a few days, I will go home and take a look. Oh, Li Mo asked with some surprise, have you finally figured it out? Well, I've figured it out. Then come back, the Li family will always be your most solid backing, and the connection between bloodlines is inseparable. No, Mrs. Li is Mrs. Li, and I am me. I just went home to see my mother, and I didn't say I wanted to stay at home. The voice fell, and there was no sound from the other end of the phone for a long time. Xiaoyuan, don't be so self-willed anymore, the clan didn't think about making arrangements for your life, and neither did I. There is no need for you to make your relationship with your family so stiff. Our Li family in Qingyang has been able to stand in the Great Qin dynasty for thousands of years, and it has never been based on the so-called marriage. Of course, there is an exchange of interests between aristocratic families, but there is no need to sacrifice my daughter, you can rest assured of that. Quote, whether my father's words are true or not, I don't want to distinguish, and I am too lazy to distinguish. I already know what kind of life I want, and I have already thought about my life clearly. I don't need my father or my family to intervene. From now on, I will live the life I choose, and I ask my father and family not to disturb me. Qiangyang Li is Qiangyang Li, I am me. Quote, Li Yuan, don't forget your surname is Li. There are many things you. Toot. Li Yuan hung up the phone neatly, got up and let out a sigh of relief, then turned around neatly and stepped into the night. Now that you have made a choice, don't regret it, just go on unswervingly. What Chen Mo said tonight is quite correct. Qingyang Li family. Li Mo put down the phone slowly, his brows gradually raised, he was in a very bad mood now. In the study at this time, besides him, there was another young man standing beside him. He was Li Mo's secretary in the Security Bureau, and he was also a core member of the Li family in Qingyang. Patriarch, Miss, she is still young after all, she doesn't understand anything. But before he could finish speaking, Li Mo interrupted him. Needless to say, sooner or later she will know what the family has brought her. Since she has the surname Li, she must bear certain responsibilities. Want to set boundaries with your family? Ah, how did I give birth to such a stupid daughter? Quote. From his words, it is enough to see how angry Li Mo is now. Also in their 20s, look at Chen Mo, then look at Li Yuan. If there is no comparison, there is no harm. Okay, how is the investigation going? Li Mulu calmed down a little, and then asked. Hearing this, the secretary standing aside immediately said, the ghost in the intelligence department has been found out, and it's from the third room. But nothing came out of his mouth. A spiritual awakener implanted a seed in his brain, and he blew himself up at the beginning of the torture. Quote. Li Mo frowned slightly, his already bad mood got worse. Recently, too much energy has been spent digging out ghosts from the clan, but now the clues have just been obtained, and they are broken again. What is the origin of this Heaven and Earth Association? The Security Bureau has made such a big mistake, and His Majesty just questioned it not long ago. If this mysterious organization is not dealt with, it will be difficult to explain. But, the secretary glanced at Li Mo, and then changed the subject. The intelligence department reported that they found many suspicious places in the imperial capital, which seem to be the secret strongholds of the Tiandawei. Since you have found something, let's go and check it out. Li Mo said slowly, you should discuss this matter with Li Mo, and ask the security office to send more staff, so that the last accident will not happen again. Then do you want to deliberately avoid Miss? After all, she has just recovered from a serious illness, and her injuries have not fully recovered. No, since this girl is so stubborn, let her go, let her practice more. Li Mo snorted coldly. Yes, the secretary nodded, and then exited the study. Walking on the quiet path of the huge manor, the secretary suddenly took out his mobile phone and dialed a number. He squinted his eyes and said lightly, the little fish has bitten the hook, it's time to draw the net. The next day, evening, Chen Mo got stuck and walked out of the Security Bureau building. Instead of going home, he headed towards Lingyun District. He received a text message from Li Mo last night, asking him to go out for supper, but unfortunately he had already gone to bed and did not receive it. Ever since, the two agreed to have dinner together after get off work today. Not long after he walked out, a familiar warm current suddenly appeared in Chen Mo's body. He hurriedly opened the awakening panel, and saw that today's light energy points had been accumulated again, a total of 17 points. Obviously, the weather is fine today. Without hesitation, Chen Mo added 2 points to vision, strength, speed, and defense as usual. Afterwards, he added 3 points to hearing, intelligence, and breathing respectively, just in time to allocate all the light energy points. Vision. 36, Awakening Skill, Microscopic Vision. After his eyesight was strengthened last time, he was the first to reach the threshold for the third time, awakening a new skill. Microscopic vision, as the name suggests, his vision will be further strengthened, and he will be able to see clearly at the microscopic level. Chen Mo raised his hand, looked down at the palm, and saw that every fingerprint on his palm was exceptionally clear, including every pore and every fluff. He raised his head and looked into the distance again. His eyes spanned a kilometer in an instant, and he saw street lights standing on the side of the street. And, all the uneven microscopic textures on the surface of street lamps are invisible to the naked eye. This new skill is like installing a high-power microscope, and it will not change due to the distance of the line of sight. Chin Mo thought to himself, the corners of his mouth slowly curled up. The short experiment has already let him know how amazing the vision changes are, and he is afraid that he is not far away from the thermal vision he has always dreamed of. Soon, he arrived at the barbecue stall where he had dinner with Li Yuan last night. Li Mo was already waiting for him here, and the table was full of dishes. "Brother, I'm not late, am I?" "No," Li Mo said lightly. Seeing this, Chin Mo was slightly taken aback. He picked up the wine and filled it up for Li Mo, and then asked, "Brother, what's the matter? Are you in a bad mood?" Well, picking up his wine glass, Li Mo walked with Chin Mo, sighed, "It's still the same thing in the family. I have a very disobedient daughter. She always thinks that I will arrange her life, but in fact, I don't think so at all. For young people, it's good to educate them more. After more experience in society, they will naturally think clearly. I've given her a long time, but she intensified, and yesterday she actually told me to sever ties with the family. Abandoning responsibility and ignoring her, she is so self-willed. The family raised her, but she doesn't want to worry about the family. The situation in the imperial capital is treacherous, and the border is still fighting, even if I am." Li Mo suddenly stopped, shook his head and said slowly, "Although I have some power, there are too many eyes on the family in the imperial capital, and many things are not as simple as they seem on the surface. Enin, it's not easy for my brother to support the family. The child is indeed self-willed. You might as well educate him more." Chin Mo nodded in agreement, and continued, "If it's really not possible, brother, you can scold her more, one might wake her up, and the other can vent your anger. Your body is the most important thing, brother, relax your mind, don't be angry with your ineffective children." Quote. The words are rough and the rationale is not rough. Chin Mo's words are quite reasonable. How about being stricter with Xiao Yuan? Li Mo thought to himself, Li Mo and Li Yuan are the only two children under his knees, and Li's burden will definitely be handed over to these two in the future. It's a pity that of the two, one has average talent and the other has a bad temper. Difficult, but fortunately, he is an S rank, and he is only in his 40s now, so he can protect Li Shi for a while longer. Afterwards, the two chatted casually. Li Mo's mood gradually improved a lot, which is why he likes to get along with Chin Mo. On weekdays, his status is aloof, and everyone who sees him is always respectful and restrained, even his own son Li Mo is like this. But it's very easy to stay with Chin Mo, besides, this kid is quite interesting, and he can beat himself when playing chess. This is not something ordinary people can do. At the same time, in a factory 5 kilometers away, Li Yuan was on a mission. This time, the security department directly mobilized all the awakened people in groups 3, 5, 6, and 7 to investigate in 2 places. Li Yuan was with 6 groups of people, a total of 15 awakened people, including 2 D levels, 6 E levels, and the rest are F levels. According to the information obtained by the intelligence department, there is a small stronghold of the Tiandawei hidden in this factory. The opponent has no high-level awakened people, and there are no more than 5 people. With our strength, we can take it steadily. Li Yuan looked around the crowd, and said calmly, "So, this mission is mainly about 2 points. First, set up the encirclement circle, and never let anyone go. Second, try to catch as many people as possible. We know too little about Tiandawei." Quote. Understood. Everyone lowered their voices in unison. Then I will start assigning tasks now. Li Yuan opened the map and said in an orderly manner, "Li Changfeng, you lead the 7 groups of people to guard this intersection." The task assignment ended soon, and everyone dispersed and entered the factory from different directions. Li Yuan moved her fingers, and her fingertips seemed to be surrounded by wisps of wind. Her eyes were extremely sharp, and her face was extremely calm. Obviously, she is an awakener of the wind element. This is her first mission after being discharged from the hospital, and it is also her battle of revenge. The Heaven and Earth Society almost killed her, so of course she wouldn't just let it go. The night was thick and silent. Just outside the encirclement circle set up by Li Yuan, there is another small office in the factory, where 10 awakened ones are hiding right now. They sat side by side on the ground, silent, waiting for the moment when the order was given. The target has entered the factory building A, and there are still 500 meters away from the ambush site. The crisp female voice rang directly in everyone's minds. It was Chen Lingling's voice. The target has passed building B, there are still 300 meters. Chen Lingling kept reporting the location of Li Yuan and another D-level to them, waiting for the best opportunity to make a move. This time, they will never let Li Yuan survive again. Although the number of people is 10 versus 15, they are at a disadvantage, but among the 10 people here, there is a high-level awakened person. With this person around, nothing will go wrong during this trip. The target is still 100 meters away from the bait. As Chen Lingling's voice sounded again, the high-level awakened person in the office suddenly opened his eyes, and his pupils were strange yellow. He licked the corner of his mouth and showed a bloodthirsty smile. The hunt is finally about to begin. The target is still 50 meters away from the bait. Chen Lingling said loudly, and at the same time pressed the remote control in her hand. Boom! A terrible explosion suddenly occurred in the factory building, and the wall collapsed in an instant, and smoke and dust were everywhere. The shattered stones spread out in all directions, hitting the surrounding 2E classes and 8F classes fiercely, knocking them all to the ground. Seeing this scene, Li Yuan's pupils shrank sharply, and his face changed rapidly. Too bad, it's an ambush again. This intelligence service. 5 kilometers, whether it is far or not, is not close. When the sound of the explosion reached the barbecue stall, the sound was much quieter, but Qinmo and Li Mo both changed their expressions at the same time. Qinmo let go of his hearing, and the chaotic sounds around him instantly entered his ears. With an intelligence as high as 26, he quickly eliminated useless sounds and analyzed the specific location of the explosion. The super sound was activated immediately, and Qinmo heard all the sounds 5 kilometers away almost from the moment they appeared. Team leader, why is she in that direction? Could it be that? Qinmo immediately thought of the result. Li Yuan must have gone on another mission. However, judging from what he heard, their current situation is very bad. In a short moment, Qinmo analyzed many things, and the next moment he suddenly raised his head and said to Li Mo, "Brother, I drank too much, I'll go to the toilet nearby, and I'll be right back." "Go." Li Mo nodded. Seeing this, Qinmo quickly got up and trotted away, as if he couldn't hold back his urine urgently. After getting out of Li Mo's sight and coming to a remote and dark corner where no one was paying attention, Qinmo thought about it and disappeared in place. To be precise, it should be that his speed is too fast, it seems as if he disappeared out of thin air. A piercing sound suddenly sounded on the street. Qinmo had already increased his speed to the speed of sound, and he was heading towards Li Yuan's position. 5 kilometers is only 15 seconds for Qinmo. What he didn't know was that after he left, Li Mo's aura suddenly changed, and a faint dragon power emanated out. In the blink of an eyelid, his eyes turned into golden vertical pupils, which looked like the eyes of a dragon. Under the gaze of the dragon, everything is invisible. He looked in the direction of the explosion, and everything that happened in the factory was quickly reflected in his vertical pupils. This is the horror of S rank. But in the next second, Li Mo looked stunned, he was extremely surprised. He never thought that he would see Qinmo there. This kid is actually an awakener. Half a minute ago, Qinmo was sitting here drinking and chatting with him, and half a minute later he appeared 5 kilometers away. If this is not an awakener, what else is it? Moreover, such a short time and such a fast speed are not something ordinary awakened people can do. Li Mo was shocked. He had been with Qinmo for so long and thought he was just an ordinary person. He didn't expect Qinmo to give him a big surprise. Your hiding is really deep enough. Li Mo whispered to himself. On the other side at this time, Qinmo had already opened the holographic vision, covering a radius of 300 meters. Li Yuan and the Tiandaway people were all included in his sight, and he could see them clearly in various colors. It's perfectly round and round as one. It seems to be AC level. I don't know which series it is. According to the distribution of thermal imaging, Qinmo immediately judged the strongest of the Tiandaway this trip. As for the remaining 9 people, there are 2D levels and 4E levels. No matter how you look at it, if he doesn't come, Li Yuan and the others will definitely die. Qinmo opened the enhanced perspective, instantly penetrated the 4-story wall, and saw the sea-level member of the Tiandaway. I saw the man leaning against the wall, lying on the ground with all four limbs, motionless, in a very strange posture. Li Yuan was 50 meters ahead of him, and he was fighting against the D class of the Tiandaway. He only needed to show up to secure the victory, and then he left gracefully. However, he can't move now. The enemy does not move, I do not move, an excellent lone wolf will wait for the best time to hunt its prey. Chen Lingling's serious voice sounded in his mind. There are high-level awakened people on the right side. The level is unknown, and the coefficient classification is unknown. Hearing this, he frowned, his nose twitched, and he mobilized all his strength, ready to fight Qin Mo. He didn't know why there was such an accident in this operation, and he didn't know when this unidentified awakened person popped out. But anyway, just kill it. He licked the corner of his mouth again, his eyes gradually became fierce, like a bloodthirsty wolf. He didn't mind hunting one more game tonight. However, at the next moment, Chen Lingling's scream suddenly sounded in his mind. He's gone. Gone. What the hell is missing? Just as the thought flashed through his mind, before he could react, an unmatched terrifying force suddenly appeared on the wall he was close to. Oops. The huge force poured on him through the wall. Moreover, this force completely ignored the defenses on his body, and directly acted on his internal organs. Sea-level awakened people have not yet strengthened their internal organs. Although they are much stronger than ordinary people, they are incomparable to the defense of the body surface. This punch directly shattered more than half of his internal organs, and the instant pain almost made him pass out on the spot. However, between life and death, the adrenaline soared sharply, and the bloody smell welling up in his throat crazily stimulated him. Ah! A resounding howl of a wolf sounded, and this sea-level mimic awakened from the Tiandaway landed on all fours. Hairs that looked like steel needles grew on his hands and legs, his muscles bulged, his bones grew, and his body became several times larger in an instant. About a foot long. His current appearance is half man, half wolf, like a werewolf. The awakening gene in his body gave him the speed of a wolf, the strength of a wolf, and the explosive power of a wolf. Whoosh! He flew out in an instant, jumped more than 10 meters in one step, and left at high speed towards the outside of the factory. He had already been seriously injured after just a brief contact, and he was deeply aware of how big the gap between himself and this mysterious awakened person was. To stay is to wait for death properly, and only by escaping can there be a glimmer of life. However, he is fast, Qin Mo will only be faster than him. Behind the wall, Qin Mo slowly withdrew his protruding right arm, once again gaining a higher level of awareness of his own strength. Deliberate punching and beating cattle across the mountain, the effect in actual combat seems to be very good so far. Qin Mo murmured to himself, and then disappeared in place in an instant. The next moment, he appeared in front of that sea level like a ghost, raised his foot to aim at his head, and kicked him heavily. The power of all parts of the body was instantly transmitted to Qin Mo's right foot, and he deliberately punched again, kicking him on the head with unparalleled speed. So fast. This was the last thought that flashed through the mind of this sea-level Tiandaway, and it was also the last words he would never have the chance to leave behind. His huge body flew high, and then fell heavily like a torn sack, blood slowly overflowed from under his body, and his breath was cut off. Qin Mo killed him instantly with just one punch and one kick. All this happened in less than half a minute. Immediately afterwards, at the next moment, Qin Mo disappeared in place again, and appeared behind the 2D level awakened members of the Tiandaway. He punched them twice and easily killed them. So far, the situation in the factory has been completely reversed, and the rest of the Tiandaway can't afford to make trouble. Then Qin Mo broke out at the speed of sound, left the factory straight away, and headed for the barbecue stall 5 kilometers away. It was just a coincidence to come out to solve the trouble, and to verify the results of adding points during this period of time. The main thing for Qin Mo tonight is to have dinner with Li Mo. Li Mo is still waiting there, he is embarrassed to go to this toilet for too long. The accident happened too fast. Li Yuan only heard a loud howling of a wolf, and then saw a figure flashing under the thick night. When she came down again, she found that the 2D rank awakeners who fought with her were actually dead. Hiss. 2D grades in a second, that means you can also be yourself in a second. However, judging from the situation just now, this person is a friend rather than an enemy, and he is on the same line with the security bureau. Didn't show up, is it the arrangement of the family again? Li Yuan frowned slowly, his eyes moved slightly. But she didn't care to think about it, and she still needed to lead the security staff to get rid of the rest of the Tiandaway. The battle started quickly and ended quickly. In a short while, all the people in the Tiandaway were dead, and those who were captured were captured. Except for Chen Lingling, none of them escaped. The tires rubbed against the ground, and several black-armed vehicles quickly surrounded the factory. Li Mo got out of the vehicle with his men and strode towards the center of the battle. Soon, they found the bloody corpse on the ground. At this time, his body had recovered from a half-wolf half-man to a human form. The lean man who had been following behind Li Mo quickly stepped forward, knelt down and inspected the corpse carefully. Not long after, he got up and raised his head, habitually adjusted his glasses on the bridge of his nose, and said meticulously, the fatal injury was in the brain, he died from a severe blow, and there were many internal bleedings. This C-ranker should have encountered a higher-level awakened person and was killed instantly by it, but what was strange was that there were no wounds on his body surface, as if he hadn't been attacked at all. Quote. Hearing this, Li Mo frowned slightly. He looked down at the person from the Tiandaway, and said slowly, can you tell what kind of awakened person the murderer is? No. The thin man shook his head, but he continued. But this person's attack is very similar to that unknown high-level awakened person in the Imperial Hospital, and the two may have some connection. Li Mo frowned even tighter, and there was a touch of worry in the depths of his eyes. The nearest Imperial capital is not peaceful. So many unknown high-level awakened people appeared one after another, which made him feel a little uneasy in his heart. At this moment, a cell phone ringing suddenly broke his thoughts. Li Mo took out his mobile phone, glanced at the number displayed on the screen, immediately stood up straight, and his face became extremely serious. He connected it to his ear and said respectfully, Father, well, okay, I see, it turned out to be your arrangement. The phone was hung up quickly, and Li Mo's brows unconsciously relaxed a little. Most of the doubts just now were cleared away by this phone call, and he lightly ordered. Clean up the corpse and bring it back for interrogation. As for the high-level awakened person, there is no need to investigate it, and don't record it in the action file. Yes, time rewinds to a quarter of an hour ago. At the barbecue stand, Chin Mo quickly walked back and sat down, and said with a smile, I've been waiting for a long time, the public toilet is still a little far away. Opposite him, Li Mo's pupils had returned to their original state, and the dragon's power permeating around him had long since disappeared without a trace. Hearing Chin Mo's explanation, Li Mo didn't expose him, but just smiled and said, it's okay. Afterwards, he asked seemingly casually, by the way, how old are you, Xiao Qin? I will be 24 soon. Chin Mo replied sincerely without doubting him. Hearing this, Li Mo's eyes flickered, and the hand holding the draft beer cup paused for a moment, and then he returned to the original state, and said with emotion. 24 is still young is good. Brother, you are not old. As if nothing had happened just now, the two of them were still chatting as before. However, as everyone knows, Li Mo's heart at this time is not as calm as it seems on the surface. Immediately 24, that is only 23 years old. At this age, Chin Mo is already a high-level awakened person, and he has just reached the high-level threshold, he can reach AC level in an instant. Such a powerful talent, such a terrifying gene, and such a stable mind. There is no doubt that Chin Mo is an out-and-out genius. Li Mo made an evaluation of him secretly in his heart, such an evaluation can be described as quite astonishing. As the patriarch of the Qingyang Li family, a 1,000-year-old family, and an extremely powerful S-rank, what kind of genius hasn't been seen in so many years? But Li Mo was actually taken aback by Chin Mo's terrifying talent tonight. The surprise Chin Mo brought him was even greater than he had imagined before. The dinner was already coming to an end, so it didn't take long for Chin Mo to sit back and chat for a while. The two said goodbye at this point, and agreed to meet again next time when they had time, and then Chin Mo took the lead to leave. Watching his back gradually disappearing into the night, Li Mo took out his mobile phone from his trouser pocket, and slowly dialed Li Mo's number. Xiao Mo, I arranged the people for tonight. In addition, continue to purge the intelligence department. There are quite a lot of ghosts hiding in our Li family. To Chin Mo, What happened last night was just an insignificant episode that had no impact on his life at all. At 6 o'clock the next morning, he still got up on time and was very self-disciplined. After daily washing, Chin-mo left the house at 6:20 to welcome the beautiful sun of the new day. According to the weather forecast, today is a sunny day, and the light will be very sufficient. I think we can harvest a large wave of light energy points at night. Thinking of this, Chin-mo's mouth raised a faint smile. Then, as usual, he ran to work in the security bureau. After 7 o'clock, Chin-mo sat in an early breakfast shop. While eating fried dough sticks, he replayed the brief battle last night. Relying on his powerful memory, it was as if he was playing back a movie in his mind, remembering every detail clearly. This is the benefit of high intelligence. Sea level is no longer a threat to me now, but a high-level awakener has a threshold for each level. B level is much stronger than sea level. I still need to accumulate more light energy points. Chin-mo thought so in his heart. More light energy points means that the physical attributes have been greatly enhanced, and every point of light energy points will bring him a very big improvement. Soon, after breakfast, he continued to run towards the security bureau, running all the way to the place where the sun was shining. By 8:30, Chin-mo had already entered the office of Group 7, sat next to his desk, and basked in the sun in another place. The team members arrived one after another, and the office became much more lively. Su-yin suddenly stepped on her stilettos and came up to Chin-mo, lowered her voice, and said softly, "Have you heard what happened last night?" "What's the matter?" Chin-mo asked calmly. "What else is there? Another mission is out. Our group and the other 3 groups are on the mission together," Su-yin said. The other 3 groups. There were only 6 groups and 7 groups in the factory last night, so, it seems that the tasks were divided. Chin-mo easily deduced this piece of information. Su-yin leaned closer to him again, lowered her voice, and continued, "I heard that this mission has suffered heavy losses. The team leader of the 3rd group was seriously injured and was sent to the Imperial Hospital overnight, and the team leader of the 5th team." Her expression became a little more serious. She opened her mouth, and said solemnly, "Sacrificed." Before the words fell to the ground, Chin-mo's brows had already been raised, and his face was full of astonishment. The leader of the 5th group is a D-rank awakener with great strength. Who would have thought that he would be sacrificed? Not only him, but several members of the 2 groups also died during the mission last night. Li Yuan's voice was extremely low. Chin-mo then fell into silence, and the atmosphere instantly became heavy. Sacrificing these 2 words has never been as simple as it seems. This means that there are children who have lost their fathers, women who have lost their husbands, and elderly people who are dying of old age, but they want a gray-haired man to give a black-haired man. In just one night, several families were torn apart and filled with grief. Chin-mo's face remained calm, but his clenched fists unconsciously showed that he was in a very bad mood right now. His father in the second life died on the way to perform the mission, and he was very touched by this. Being able to cause such a large amount of damage to the security bureau, it is obvious that Tiandahui has not only dispatched AC level, but the power they have displayed so far cannot be underestimated. Did you take the gun that the department gave you with you? Although we don't need to participate in ordinary tasks, it can be used just in case. Su-yin reminded. Don't worry, Sister Su, I'll be fine, but you need to be careful. Chin-mo replied with a warm heart. Because of the sacrifice of a colleague, Su-yin didn't have the heart to talk dirty to Chin-mo today. She just nodded and then returned to her desk. At this time, Li Chengfeng and other awakened people also arrived, and one of them had a bandage on his arm, obviously injured in the battle last night. For the entire morning that followed, there was silence in the office, and almost no one spoke loudly. Li Yuan didn't show up. She didn't know what she was doing. It was only when he went to eat at noon that Chin-mo used his strong hearing ability to learn the general story of last night from the people's chats. The 3rd group and the 5th group went to a construction site outside the imperial capital to perform tasks. They also fell into a trap and walked into the siege. In the end, it was the timely support from the security office that forced the Tiandahui back and saved everyone, but they went too late. Calculating carefully, the casualties that heaven and earth will cause to the security bureau during this period are already very large. The security bureau. To be precise, the Li family of Qingyang has never suffered such a big loss. In the ancient family that has stood for thousands of years in the Great Qin dynasty, their majesty has been seriously provoked, and they don't know what kind of counterattack they will make. But first of all, it is necessary to find out the insider of the intelligence department, otherwise, the enemy will be out of the dark, it is too passive. In this way, an afternoon passed quietly. When it was time to get off work, Qin Mo's body felt a familiar warmth again. He changed his expression, focused his eyes and opened the genetic awakening panel. Eyesight, 36. Listening, 22. Intelligence, 26. Breaths, 26. Strength, 38. Speed, 33. Recovery, 23. Defense, 32. Skills, holographic vision, perspective, radar, thermal imaging, deliberate punching, thoughts like springs, tortoise breath, rapid healing, fighting cattle across mountains, speed of sound, steel body 2 level, clear at a glance, supersound, quick recovery, exhalation and concentration ice. Light energy points, 18, freely assignable. Looking at the last column, Qin Mo's mouth slowly turned up. The weather forecast doesn't lie to me. So many light energy points are very rare since he awakened, and it is difficult to accumulate them. Afterwards, Qin Mo deliberated a little and decided on today's distribution plan. He allocated 4 points to hearing and restoration. These 2 attributes are too weak now and do not conform to his idea of balanced development. The allocation ratio must be increased appropriately. Then Qin Mo added 1 point to intelligence and breathing, and the last 8 points were evenly distributed to vision, strength, speed, and defense. The warm current quickly covered his whole body. After this allocation, his current strength has reached 40 points. Qin Mo felt that there seemed to be endless energy in his body, and at the same time his body was quietly undergoing some small changes. His height has been raised again, from the previous 183 centimeters to 186 centimeters, and the overall proportions have also changed accordingly, becoming more well-proportioned and his facial features more handsome. At the same time, a line of information appears at this time. Speed, 35, awakening skill, supersonic speed. The speed actually reached the 3rd threshold first. Qin Mo did not expect this. His current strength has reached 40 points, but apart from the improvement of basic strength, he has no other abilities. The 3rd threshold seems to be far away, and Qin Mo needs to allocate more light energy points to continue strengthening. The speed ranked 3rd in points was 1 step ahead and awakened new skills. As Sonic faded away from the Gene Awakening panel and Supersonic took its place, his speed was once again pushed past the limit. At the beginning, Qin Mo played to the limit, which was only the speed of sound. Later, after being strengthened, he could easily burst out the speed of sound, and now he has gone a step further, surpassing the speed of sound. This is a qualitative change caused by a quantitative change. From this moment on, his speed can be faster than the sound. That is to say, when Qin Mo activates the supersound and instantly hears the voice of a distant person, he bursts into speed at the same time, and can appear near the distant sound source in an instant. Qin Mo was very excited now. He couldn't wait to walk out of the Security Bureau building, and found a remote corner. Immediately afterwards, a supersonic explosion broke out, and Qin Mo disappeared in place in an instant. About 20 seconds later, he had already appeared in Guanghong Street, Baiyun District, which was in front of his house. But at this time, there was a loud boom on the road. However, it is the evening rush hour in the imperial capital, and it is the time when it is crowded. Countless vehicles quietly cover up the quiet sonic boom, without attracting the attention of others. The Security Bureau is about 10 kilometers away from me, and it only took about 20 seconds, which means that my current speed is about 500 meters per second. Qin Mo secretly calculated in his heart, and took out the key to open the door. 500 meters per second is not his limit speed. If he explodes with all his strength, it may reach 550 meters per second, but it is still far from twice the speed of sound. Superman's speed is comparable to the speed of light, and even surpasses the speed of light at the limit. I am still too slow now. Qin Mo shook his head, took a cold shower first, and cooked a generous dinner by himself. After he had eaten and washed the dishes, it was already past 7 o'clock. Seeing that it was still early, Qin Mo nestled on the sofa and took out his mobile phone to start his daily consultation and browsing. He glanced at the weather forecast first, and couldn't help but feel happy. The outdoor temperature in the imperial capital will be as high as 36 degrees tomorrow. This is good news. With the passage of time, the imperial capital has entered midsummer, and the weather has become hotter recently. Many people don't want to go out and wish to work from home. However, he still has to make money to support his family, so he has no choice but to ruthlessly discard this idea from the bottom of his heart. But for Chin-mo, the hotter the sun, the better. After reading the weather forecast, Chin-mo glanced at the news on the border. I thought it would be the same as before, and nothing happened at the border, but I didn't expect that there would be a striking red line just after opening the message. Extremely good news. A conflict broke out on the border, and the god of war of the Great Qin immediately killed the general of the Qi state. Chin-mo immediately poked open Piaohong, and carefully browsed the information. Just 3 days ago, an ordinary small conflict broke out on the border, but for some unknown reason, the two sides became red-eyed, and the conflict continued to escalate and become more and more intense. In less than half a day, A-level awakened people joined the battle, and finally developed into S-level people who ended up in person, and the fight began. The final result is as shown in the title. The Dakan god of war beheaded the S-level Qi state before the battle, and once again consolidated his reputation as the god of war. This is the largest conflict that has occurred in the past 5 years. It is a very big loss for Qi to have an S-level awakened person fall. The border is still constantly mobilizing troops, which is very likely to be the fuse of the war. Of course, it is more likely that it will end hastily in the end, and Qi Guo will suffer this boring loss. An all-out war cannot be launched with just a word, and the mobilization of manpower and material resources is not that simple, otherwise the two countries would not have faced each other for hundreds of years. The Great Qin god of war. Chin-mo whispered to himself, and at the same time quickly searched on the phone. He knew about this person before, but he didn't know much about him. He only knew that his surname was Xia, and he had a single ancestor. Some basic information about Xia Zhu soon appeared on the screen. Xia Zhu, a native of Jialing in the Great Qin dynasty, joined the army at the age of 16, and practiced in the army until he was 36 years old. He climbed from the bottom of the ranks to the position of marshal step by step, and made great military exploits. With military exploits and S-level strength, Xia Zhu was naturally appreciated by His Majesty the Emperor, and was canonized as the Great Qin god of war, and has been guarding the border ever since. After looking around, Chin-mo was keenly aware of the key points. A native of Jialing in the Great Qin dynasty. Jialing is not an easy place, because there is an aristocratic family here, the Jialing Xia family. People from Jialing, whose surname is Xia. How could it be such a coincidence? It seems, the god of war of the Great Qin should be a member of the Xia clan of Jialing. Sure enough, most of the geniuses are descendants of aristocratic families. Chin-mo said to himself. The Jialing Xia family is not simple. This family is not a 1,000-year-old family, but has been newly promoted in recent decades. Although the background and history of the aristocratic family is far from being comparable to the 5 ancient Li family in Qingyang, there are still S-level awakened people in the top combat power. This is the detached status of the S-class. As long as there is an S-level member in the family, the whole family will rise immediately, have a place in the huge Qin country, and enter the top high society. Afterwards, Chin-mo looked through the relevant information again, and saw that in a few days, a group of young people who had made military exploits on the border would return to the imperial capital and be rehabilitated. Most of the power of the aristocratic family is still hoarded at the border. There should be children who have gone out to practice after returning this time, but I don't know which family it is. Chin-mo thought curiously in his heart. It's a pity that the specific news is beyond his knowledge. Chin-mo's current level is far from enough. The next day. As the weather forecast said, the sun is extremely hot. Chin-mo had been basking in the sun for more than 2 hours before he got stuck in the office building of the Security Bureau. The next whole day, he spent in boring fishing. The atmosphere in the office is still very heavy, but it is much better than yesterday. Time is the best cure. However, hatred will not be forgotten so easily, it is just hidden in the bottom of my heart. The sky gradually darkened, and soon it was time to get off work, and a familiar warm current suddenly appeared in Chin-mo's body. Light energy points. 21, freely assignable. Looking at the most light energy points ever accumulated, a faint smile appeared on Chin Mo's brows and eyes. It's still the same. Vision, strength, speed and defense are assigned 2 points each, maintaining a steady improvement. For the remaining 13 points, Chin Mo pondered for a while, and added 3 points to intelligence, breathing, and recovery, and then added 4 points to hearing. In this way, these 4 relatively weak attributes all reached 30 points. Hearing, 30, skills, radar, ultrasonic enhancement. Hearing actually strengthened first. Chin Mo was slightly stunned. He thought that his intelligence would be strengthened first. However, as time goes by day, and the number of light energy points continues to increase, the 8 attributes of his body will be greatly improved, but the order is different. After the warm current subsided, it reemerged and quickly gathered near his ears. The range Chin Mo can hear has been expanded again. He could only cover a radius of 10 kilometers before, but now. While walking out of the building of the Security Bureau, he let go of his hearing, and the huge noisy sound entered his ears instantly. 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers, 20 kilometers. After strengthening, his hearing ability doubled directly. All the sounds within 20 kilometers from him were sent into his mind through the skill radar. Among them, things within a range of 5 kilometers were heard by Chin Mo from the moment the sound was made. This is the enhanced supersound. Quite scary. However, such a large coverage area also means that there is an extremely terrifying amount of redundant information. But fortunately, Chin Mo's intelligence is now as high as 30 points, and his analysis and calculation capabilities are very powerful, comparable to a humanoid computer. This can prevent him from being overwhelmed by such a huge amount of information, and methodically eliminate useless things. After the experiment just now, Chin Mo already knew where the hearing limit after strengthening was, so he was ready to close it. However, at this moment, a sentence suddenly caught his attention. Chin Mo frowned slightly, and with a thought, he quickly judged the location of this sentence through the radar. The target is 7.5 kilometers away. At this moment, he quickly focused on listening to other people's secret conversations from a distance of 15 miles. A certain high-end restaurant, in a private room. 3 men and 1 woman were sitting around the dining table, and this woman was none other than Chen Lingling. Sitting opposite Chen Lingling was a very ordinary-looking middle-aged man, who belonged to the type who couldn't be found when thrown into the crowd. He said, "The nail we planted in the Security Bureau has not sent back any useful information so far, and it is still unclear who that person is. Besides the Li family, I can't think of any other possibility to have 2 powerful high-level awakened ones. These 1,000-year-old families have 2 deep foundations." Another person in the private room continued. "Lingling, you had a short fight with them, how do you feel?" The middle-aged man looked at her and asked. Hearing this, Chen Lingling took a deep breath, looked solemn, and said slowly, very strong, if I reveal my position, I'm afraid I will turn into a cold corpse. Can't you place a spiritual mark on the other party?" The middle-aged man frowned. "Impossible, the opponent's speed is too fast." Chen Lingling shook her head. Seeing this, the middle-aged man frowned more tightly, and said in a low voice, "This is really troublesome, but..." He changed the subject and said, "The elemental crystals will be transported to the imperial capital after a while." As soon as these words came out, Chen Lingling and the others immediately lifted their expressions, revealing a faint smile. The last 2 missions have all failed, and the haze of losing dozens of awakened seems to have been swept away by 3 points. Element crystallization. What is this? Chin Mo, who had heard all the conversation, was very puzzled. He had never heard of this thing before. It seems that tomorrow we will need to use the authority of the team leader to open a back door. He can only be sure now that this unknown thing must be related to the awakened one, so it is obvious that his authority is not enough. I didn't expect to hear the conspiracy of the Tiandaway. What a coincidence. On the way home, Chin Mo's thoughts scattered. It was because of the words of the Security Bureau that he noticed Chen Lingling and the others. The distance between the 2 sides was not far, only a straight line distance of 15 miles. If Chin Mo wanted to, he could appear in front of Tiandaway within half a minute and give them a great surprise. It's just that, unless he doesn't know exactly how many people the opponent has and what strength they are, he won't take this risk. Heaven and earth will not be an ordinary force, no one knows how big an iceberg they hide under the water. In this way, Chin Mo quickly returned to his small home. The daily life is still the same as before, cooking, eating, washing, swiping the phone, going to bed. Although it remains the same, he especially likes this kind of tranquility, relaxation and leisure. There was nothing to say all night, and when he went out the next day, Chin Mo put the USB flash drive in his pocket in advance. Bask in the sun and run, get stuck into the security bureau building, and wait for Li Yuan to come to work. At about 10 o'clock in the morning, Chin Mo looked into the small office through a perspective, and after confirming that Li Yuan was working, he inserted the USB flash drive into the host. The program ran silently, and the higher authority was soon opened to Chin Mo. It didn't take long for him to find what he wanted. Element crystallization. After the death of an elemental awakener above grade A, he controls the natural precipitation of elements, which has extremely powerful power. Looking at this line of small characters, Chin Mo couldn't help but sink into deep thoughts. A-level awakeners can destroy a city by one person, their genes have been fully awakened, and their strength has reached its peak. They never expected to have such a characteristic. Of course, A-level and above awakened mimics will also produce relics after death, so they just change their name, called the relics of the Holy Spirit. As for the awakened ones of the spiritual system, I don't know, even Li Yuan's high-level authority cannot see them. Psychic awakeners are really too rare, they are very mysterious, and the power they master seems to involve some kind of hidden field. Elemental crystals are transported to the imperial capital. It seems that the Heaven and Earth Council is not willing to die, and there must be a bigger plan in the future. Chin Mo thought to himself, pulled out the USB flash drive, and frowned slightly. He still doesn't know what the purpose of the Tiandaway is, but Chin Mo's original peaceful life has been broken by this organization. The faint sunlight shone wantonly on Chin Mo's body through the glass window, and the clock hanging on the wall was running very fast, and it was almost 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's time to get off work. Li Chengfeng and other awakened people were gathering together and whispering. Su Yin sitting opposite him was packing things on the table. As for Li Yuan, she was soaking her feet in the small office as if no one was around. Feeling the warm current in his body, Chin Mo slowly raised the corners of his mouth. Energy points. 17, freely assignable. The recent weather in the imperial capital is very good, and there are more light energy points accumulated. Chin Mo deliberated for a while, and then adjusted the distribution plan. Vision and strength were still added by 2 points, and speed and defense were added by 4 points. Thoughts flashed, and the warmth quickly covered the whole body. Defense, 40, awakening skill, elemental immunity. Elemental immunity. Chin Mo's eyes lit up. After Chin Mo's unremitting efforts to add points for many days, the defense attribute finally reached the 3rd threshold, unlocking new skills. Elemental immunity, as the name suggests, will be ineffective if elements such as earth, fire, water, and wind act on him. This skill can be said to be very powerful and extremely useful. You must know that the main attack method of the awakened elements is to use the elements they have awakened, such as fire, wind and so on. With elemental immunity, Chin Mo will be able to get twice the result with half the effort when facing elemental awakened people, and it will be very easy. The last awakening skill for defense is Man of Steel, which can be used against awakened mimics, and the current elemental immunity just makes up for my shortcomings. Now, only the most mysterious spiritual awakener is left, and he still threatens me. Chin Mo murmured to himself. It's a pity that spiritual awakeners are too rare, and even the Security Bureau knows little about the abilities they control. Although Chin Mo was able to borrow more advanced authority, he still couldn't find relevant information. Then, he began to distribute the remaining light energy points. Just now, 12 points were used up, and there were 5 points left. Chin Mo allocated 2 points to intelligence, and added 1 point to hearing, breathing, and recovery. The warm current quickly covered the whole body, and quickly disappeared, and today's distribution of light energy points ended. Chin Mo tidied up the table and was about to officially leave work. The people in the 7th group had almost left. He got up and left the office, and was about to go downstairs when he got to the stairs, but when he glanced out of the corner of his eye, he suddenly found that Li Chengfeng and others hadn't left yet. The awakened ones, together with Wang Yan, who had just been discharged from the hospital today, were waiting outside the corridor of the 2nd office. Qin Mo looked at them curiously, not knowing what they were going to do, and they were whispering when they were about to get off work. At this time, one of them happened to see Qin Mo, and seeing him keep looking in this direction at the stairs, the colleague's brows slowly frowned. But before he could speak, Qin Mo simply turned around and went downstairs. However, although his people left, his ears still stayed here, listening to everything about them quietly. Li Changfeng and the others waited for about 20 minutes before a young man came out of the second group. Changfeng, I've been waiting for a long time. Something came up before I got off work, and I need to deal with it. Li Jihei smiled. No, it didn't take long. We just arrived. Brother Li's work is urgent. We are not in a hurry. Who would have thought that Li Changfeng, who usually has a straight face and is very cold, would smile all over his face when facing this person, and put his posture very low in his words. Yes, just arrived. We're in no hurry. The rest of the people hurriedly agreed. They waited for more than 20 minutes, but they dared not complain at all. All kinds of performances are enough to show Li Jihei's high status. In fact, like Li Changfeng, he is an E-level awakener, but this Li is Li from the Qingyang Li family. Where are we going tonight? Li Jihei asked as he walked. Hearing this, Li Changfeng smiled and said, it all depends on Brother Li. Li Jihei considered it for a while, and then said, then how about going to Shuiyu Pavilion? As soon as these words came out, everyone's heart skipped a beat. It's broken, it's definitely going to bleed tonight. Although Shuiyu Pavilion is not as top-notch as Rose Paradise, the cost of one night is not small. But things outside the body like money, compared to the friendship of the children of the family, are not even as good as a piece of shit. Since Brother Li has made arrangements, let's go to Shuiyu Pavilion. Li Changfeng nodded. Before the voice could reach the floor, immediately behind him, other colleagues from the 7 groups found out the phone number of Shuiyu Pavilion and booked a private room in advance. A group of people walked and chatted, and the atmosphere became lively. However, during the walk, the central position originally belonged to Li Changfeng, but at this time it was logically replaced by Li Jihei. In a few days, there will be a celebration banquet in Taoyuan. With the great victory at the border, the children of the aristocratic family set foot on their way home a few days ago. This banquet is specially held for them, Li Jihei said with a smile. Hearing this, deep envy flashed in the depths of Li Changfeng's and others' eyes. Who wouldn't want to make friends with the children of aristocratic families who have status, and strength? It's a pity that this is a banquet that belongs exclusively to the top circles, and awakened people from grassroots backgrounds like them are not qualified to participate at all. The qualification here is the surname. Brother Li, which family members will return this time? Someone asked curiously. Hearing this, Li Jihei smiled and said, I heard from the elders in the clan that the little devil of the Lin family and the arrogance of the Chu family in Zhenbei will return home with battle achievements and have a bright future. Is it Chu Tianzhao who is only 25 years old and has advanced to B-level? That's right, Li Jihei nodded. Hiss, everyone couldn't help but gasped. A 25-year-old B-level, what kind of amazing talent is this, and what kind of talent is it? Qin Mo stepped out of the roadside supermarket. He just went there to buy a lighter, ready to simply test the effect of the new skill. Chu Tianzhao, this name is really confident enough. Qin Mo thought to himself, and at the same time withdrew his hearing. There is no need to continue listening to Li Changfeng and the others chatting. Qin Mo has been in the 7th group for so long, so he knows something about the pursuit of these people. What they dream of is to be able to mix into the upper circles of those ancient families, but unfortunately they have never been able to enter. Qin Mo could only shake his head and disapprove of this thought and behavior. In his opinion, strength is the foundation, otherwise, so what if you get in? Qin Mo is quite thorough in this regard. Although he and Li Changfeng are colleagues, they have never been the same. Pressing down on the lighter, the flames sprang up. Qin Mo put his palm on it, and slowly raised the corners of his mouth. He didn't suffer a single burn, and felt nothing. Elemental immunity is really easy to use. Qin Mo felt emotional from the bottom of his heart, then put his hands in his pockets and walked forward humming a little tune. He was going to eat dinner outside today. Soon, he walked into a small roadside noodle shop, and when he came out again, it was already 6:30. The neon lights on both sides of the street glowed with blue and purple illusory light, the sky was dark, and night fell. Chin-mo walked for 2 miles to digest his food, and then went to a secluded corner. With a thought, he immediately exploded at a terrifying speed, disappeared in place in an instant, and headed home at high speed. With his current speed, ordinary people can't find him at all, he is too fast. However, at this time, on a certain street in Baiyun district, there were 2 young people walking together. One of them was burly, more than 2 meters tall, his exposed arms were full of tendons, and his skin had a healthy bronze color. He has regular facial features, sharp edges and corners, his head is shaved with a centimeter-long cut, and his roots are erect, extremely lean. The other person was 20 centimeters shorter than him, and his body was also much thinner, with a cynical smile hanging from the corner of his mouth. Brother Chu, how long has it been since you returned to the capital? The last time I came back was 5 years ago, how time flies. Lin Shaoqi asked. Well, I haven't been back for 10 years. The burly man he called Brother Chu nodded, and in the next second, he suddenly turned his head to look to the left, with 2 thick eyebrows squeezed together. It's so fast, Chu Tianzhao murmured in a low voice. Huh, Brother Chu, what did you say? Lin Shaoqi didn't hear clearly. Wait here for me, I'll be right back. Chu Tianzhao said calmly, his pupils unknowingly turned into a bright dark blue, and suddenly there was a piercing electric current around the 2 of them. In the next moment, there was no one beside Lin Shaoqi. Chu Tianzhao disappeared in an instant, followed by a flash of lightning in the imperial capital. Chapter 31. Someone is following me. Chin-mo, who was moving at a high speed, frowned slightly, and he found Chu Tianzhao behind him. While maintaining his own speed, he immediately expanded his holographic vision, covering a radius of 800 meters. As the visual attributes continue to increase, the holographic field of vision is also gradually expanding and becoming stronger. Chu Tianzhao moved very fast. With Chin-mo deliberately controlling the speed, the distance between the 2 soon reached 800 meters. Glancing at the thermal image formed by him, Chin-mo immediately had a judgment in his heart. AB level elemental awakener. It should be a thunder element, no wonder it has such a fast speed, just try to see how strong the elemental immunity is. His speed was far from the limit, and he didn't even break through the speed of sound, but he could easily throw Chu Tianzhao away with a little burst, so he thought about verifying the results. Moreover, AB rank, for him now. After pondering for a while, Chin-mo chose to change direction and ran to the residential building under construction. 15 seconds later, he appeared at the construction site, his body suddenly stopped. Immediately after exerting strength with his legs, Chin-mo jumped directly to the roof of the building with an easy leap, thanks to his current strength of 44 points. Just 2 seconds after he jumped to the top of the building, Chu Tianzhao appeared here. Fine electric currents flew all over his body, and his eyes were still dark blue. Looking at Chin-mo from the top of the building looking down at him, Chu Tianzhao's thick eyebrows tightened even more. He was the first to ask, and asked in a deep voice. Who are you? Does this have something to do with you? Chin-mo said coldly. Although he wanted to verify the effect of the skill, he was chased all the way for no reason, so he didn't feel good about it. As long as it's about the imperial capital, it has something to do with me. Hee, what a big tone. Chin-mo's tone became colder and colder. Hearing this, Chu Tianzhao raised his thick eyebrows, he slowly opened his palm, a blue light appeared from his palm, and traces of thunder lingered around his fingertips. It seems that we can't talk properly, Chu Tianzhao said slowly. While he was speaking, his palms were clenched violently, and a large electric arc suddenly appeared around Chin-mo's body. At the moment of lightning and thunder, Chu Tianzhao burst out with extreme speed, and rushed up the stairs in an instant, preparing for close combat. He has tried this trick time and again. In the past few years, he has helped him win many military exploits in the battles with the Chi people on the border. The remote control arc first paralyzes the opponent's body, then appears beside the opponent in an instant, and then uses the thunder to deliver a fatal blow. Sufficient practical experience gave him incomparably strong self-confidence. After 1.5 seconds, Chu Tianzhao climbed to the top of the building, electric arcs flashed all over his body, and the plasma had already filled his whole body. His arms had already been raised, and he was about to bombard Chinmo at the position he remembered just now. However, his eyes flickered quickly, but he didn't find Chinmo's figure at all. Chu Tianzhao was a little confused. Didn't the electric arc paralyze him? And at the next moment, a fist magnified rapidly in his eyes. Chu Tianzhao wanted to dodge, but Chinmo's speed far surpassed him. How could he dodge? So, there was only a bang. A big hole appeared on the roof of the reinforced concrete building. Chu Tianzhao had no strength to resist, and was directly smashed to the next floor by Chinmo's punch. Chinmo withdrew his fist and glanced at it, only to see that there was no damage at all on the surface of the fist, and the powerful arc did not hurt him at all. Hiss, this new skill, elemental immunity, seems to be more powerful than I imagined. Except for a slight itching, he basically doesn't feel anything now. As for the electric arc that appeared around his body just now, not to mention paralyzed, not even tickled. You know, Chinmo's current defensive attribute itself is as high as 40 points, so although his skills have just been awakened, they are still very strong. With the help of Chu Tianzhao's power, he has a new understanding of his current physical strength. Of course, Chinmo's punch was concentrated, and he didn't strike with all his strength. After all, the two of them had no deep hatred. If they killed him with one punch, it was not in line with his three views. Passing over the big hole, Chinmo looked down and saw Chu Tianzhao's body embedded in the floor of the next floor. The current on his body was much weaker, and he seemed to be stunned by the punch. Tisk tisk tisk. Chinmo shook his head, then jumped and fell directly to the ground. Immediately afterwards, he exploded with speed and headed home. Soon, Chinmo returned home. He took off his clothes and pants, took a cold shower to cool off, and then sat on the sofa, thinking about the brief fight with Chu Tianzhao just now. Chinmo couldn't help frowning slightly, and whispered to himself, "It seems that in the future, we won't be able to explode at the limit speed casually. This is the imperial capital after all, and there are still many high-level awakened people." He reckoned that he was discovered this time because he happened to pass by him, so he was perceived. Oh, when will I be able to fly? If I can fly, there won't be so many troubles. The biological force field is the signature ability of Superman, and Chinmo also really wants it, but so far, it seems that he has not yet reached this level. However, as time goes by day, various attributes continue to increase, and there will be flying and thermal vision. Although Chinmo is eager, he is not in a hurry. After that, he stopped thinking about the episode that happened just now, and browsed the news for a while. When he was about to go to bed after 10 o'clock, Chinmo received a text message from Li Mo after a long absence, asking him to go fishing together tomorrow. The two haven't seen each other for several days. According to Li Mo, there are some troubles in his family that need to be dealt with. He has been busy recently. Chinmo expressed his understanding of this. The imperial capital is under so much pressure, and Brother Li is in charge of a big family, and he has an uneasy daughter under his knees, so it's normal to be busy occasionally. Chu Tianzhao didn't understand. He couldn't figure out why his thunder element had no effect on Chinmo, and was even stunned by his punch. When he pulled himself out from the floor, Chinmo was gone. In desperation, Chu Tianzhao had no choice but to go back where he came from. Of course, even if Chinmo was there, he didn't dare to continue to do it. Chu Tianzhao's temper is just a little direct and his temper is a little hot. He is not stupid. It's obvious that you can't beat the opponent, so why ask for trouble? But, when did such a high-level awakener appear in the imperial capital? What he can be sure of is that he is definitely not a child of the family, otherwise the family will not have no news at all. So, wild, he frowned, and walked back to Lin Shaoqi's side. "Brother Chu, why did it take you so long to come back?" "And you?" Lin Shaoqi said in surprise. Chu Tianzhao didn't notice the strange look in Lin Shaoqi's eyes. He raised his head and heaved a sigh of relief, saying with emotion, "Oh, the imperial capital is indeed a hidden dragon and a crouching tiger. Ah, Brother Chu, why did you have such a big bump on your forehead?" Hearing this, Chu Tianzhao was stunned for a moment, raised his hand and touched his forehead, and he really touched a big bag. He couldn't help twitching the corners of his mouth, his old face darkened, and he secretly scolded Chinmo 180 times in his heart, but he said flatly, I knocked it accidentally. Accidentally? Knocked? Brother Chu, you are a B-level awakener, how could you? Lin Shaoqi made it clear that he didn't believe it, but before he finished speaking, Chu Tianzhao directly interrupted him, growling. I said it was a knock, so it was a knock. What? Do you have an opinion? Lin Shaoqi. The next afternoon. Security Department, Group 7. Qin Mo glanced at the time. It is now past 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and there are less than 2 hours before get-off work time. Today is still the same as usual, basically there is no work to do, and it is another day of happy fishing. Qin Mo was in a good mood, so he picked up the thermos cup beside him and took a sip of hot water slowly. Oh, what's the matter with the handsome boy? If you are sick, you need to be treated early, so there is no delay. Su Yin looked at him with playful eyes. Sister, I know a very good doctor, do you want him to prescribe some medicine for you? Hearing this, Qin Mo's face was as usual, without any embarrassment. An old driver like him understood the hidden meaning of Su Yin's words in seconds. He put down the thermos slowly, and said, Sister Su is really joking, do I still need to prescribe medicine? I'm not very strong, doesn't Sister Su know? Hearing this, Su Yin spat at him lightly, and said, how would I know? Elder sister wants to try a gun. There's never been a chance. How about tonight? Qin Mo attacked. Well, unfortunately, my sister happens to be busy tonight. Hey Lunko, Su Yin is serious, but if it is serious, then she can run faster than anyone else. Speaking of which, have you heard what happened last night? Su Yin changed the subject and asked furtively. What's up? That is. Su Yin lowered her body, leaned closer to him, and whispered in a low voice, didn't the frontier achieve a great victory a few days ago? A group of children from aristocratic families are going back to the imperial capital. And then, Qin Mo said calmly, the children of the Chu family in Zhenbei and the Lin family in the Far East came back last night. Do you know the proud Chu family? Qin Mo nodded, and then Su Yin continued, that Tianzhao was beaten up not long after he entered the emperor. Hiss. Qin Mo took a breath, he suddenly became interested, and asked curiously, who is so bold? Dare to beat someone from a 1,000-year-old family? Who knows? I heard that Tianzhao is also a high-level awakened person, and his strength is very powerful. Maybe the other party is also a child of an aristocratic family. Su Yin guessed. Qin Mo nodded slowly, this inference is very reasonable. However, Miss Su, how do you know about this? I've heard other people's gossip. My sister has a lot of contacts, and it's not a secret. It has already spread, and many people know about it. Hearing this, Qin Mo quietly let go of his hearing, and the noisy sound entered his ears instantly. His brain quickly analyzed and processed the huge information, and soon he heard what he wanted to hear. Sure enough, many people in the security bureau were secretly discussing this gossip, guessing who the other party was. Tianzhao of the Chu family was beaten up right after he returned to the imperial capital, which is considered big news, but the powerful awakener was beaten by the mysterious person, could it be that? Qin Mo frowned slightly, he thought of the man he met on the way home last night. Could it be that the tall man was Chu Tianzhao? It can't be such a coincidence, can it? He murmured in a low voice. What are you mumbling about? No, nothing. Su Yin's words interrupted Qin Mo's thoughts. He shook his head and said, I'm going to ask the team leader for leave. Huh, why are you asking for leave? Su Yin asked suspiciously. I have a date with friends tonight. Oh, are you talking about a girlfriend? Qin Mo got up and replied, I don't have any girlfriend, it's just an old man I met a while ago. Cut. Su Yin curled her lips, and immediately lost interest. She thought she could hear some gossip. Seeing this, Qin Mo smiled slightly, walked to the door of the small office and knocked without saying anything. Enter. Hearing Li Yuan's indifferent voice, Qin Mo pushed open the door and walked to the table, explaining why he came. Team leader, I want to get off work a little earlier this afternoon, so I came here to ask you for leave. Hearing this, Li Yuan, who was working, raised his head, glanced at him, and then asked. Reason. Qin Mo told her the excuse he made with Su Yin just now. Li Yuan didn't say anything after hearing it, and happily approved the leave note. Afterwards, he returned to his workstation to clean up, took a thermos and left the security bureau building. After trotting all the way, it didn't take long to reach the small lake in Lingyun district. Li Mo had been waiting here for a long time, and he had already prepared fishing gear for Chin Mo. The two greeted each other when they met, and then Chin Mo sat next to him, basking in the sun while waiting for the unlucky little fish to take the bait. "How is things going at home recently, brother?" As soon as these words came out, Li Mo immediately let out a long sigh, and said worriedly, "It hasn't been dealt with completely yet. The children of the family are connected by blood. There are many things that are difficult to use special means. However, after so many days, it can be regarded as a wave of clearing up, and I think it can be peaceful for a while." Quote. Since the two separated last time, Li Mo began to rectify the Li family in Qingyang, and found two ghosts again from other houses. However, it was no surprise that both of them had spiritual seeds implanted in their brains, and they still didn't ask anything. Although he talked about tranquility, the investigation and cleanup is still going on, and it is still unclear how many seeds the Tiandawei planted in Li Jian. What exactly does this force want to do? What is its internal composition, and who is behind the scenes? Li Mo doesn't know anything about it now. The other party seemed to be a ghost hiding in the dark, who might strike at any moment, which made Li Mo feel very bad recently. Although he is an S-rank awakener with incomparable strength, it is obvious that there are still many things that cannot be solved by his force. Thinking of this, Li Mo couldn't help but sighed again. "Brother, don't be too anxious. If you are in a hurry, it will be bad," Chin Mo comforted. "Then, will you play 2 games with me later?" Li Mo turned to look at him. "Okay," Chin Mo readily agreed. The corner of Li Mo's mouth also raised a faint smile. Looking at the calm lake surface, with occasional ripples, his chaotic thoughts gradually emptied. That's why he likes to stay with Chin Mo. The two have similar temperaments, which vaguely mean that they have forgotten each other. Afterwards, the two of them just sat side by side, quietly waiting for the big fish to take the bait. Time passed by every minute and every second. Soon, most of the sun was hidden behind the mountain, and a warm current surged in Chin Mo's body. Light energy points. 16, freely assignable. Looking at the various attributes on the Gene Awakening panel, he deliberated and decided to divide today's light energy points equally, that is, assign 2 points to each of the 8 attributes. Warm currents quickly flowed throughout his body, comprehensively enhancing his various attributes. Breath. 33, skill, turtle's breath, exhale and ice enhancement. After so long and unremittingly adding points, his breathing was finally strengthened, and the fading warm current reappeared, quickly covering his chest cavity. Chin Mo smiled and held his breath silently. He wants to try the strengthened turtle's breath, how long a breath can last. An hour flies by. Chin Mo was still not breathing, and he also caught 2 fish. Li Mo, who was sitting next to him, naturally noticed his abnormality. At such a close distance, as an S rank, it was impossible for him to be unaware. Of course, when Chin Mo allocated light energy points to strengthen himself, Li Mo didn't notice anything. He only knew that Chin Mo hadn't breathed for a long time. Recalling Chin Mo's strength that he saw by chance last time, Li Mo couldn't help but start thinking. Although these several thousand-year-old families are very powerful, their family power is actually scattered throughout the Great Qin. In addition, a large part of the strength has been hoarded to the border to deal with the war in Qi, so there are very few capable people in the imperial capital. Li Mo's subordinates have always been short of people. Chin Mo is a high-level awakener at a young age. He is talented, strong, and good-natured. How about? He considered it for a while, and then asked casually, "Xiao Qin, how is your job now?" "It's okay." Chin Mo did not doubt that he was there. "How much is your monthly salary?" "That's about 6 or 7,000. Chin Mo replied truthfully. 6 or 7,000. Li Mo frowned slightly. A powerful high-level awakened person actually has a monthly salary of 6 or 7,000. Although he has no concept of money, he also knows that this is extremely unreasonable. This treatment is not worthy of Chin Mo's status at all. Too little, Li Mo slowly said. With your ability, Xiao Qin, you should have a higher status and better treatment. Do you want to consider coming to work in my family? Hearing this, before he could continue speaking, Chin Mo shook his head to express his refusal. Ha ha ha, goodbye brother. He threw out the fishing rod casually, leaned back on the chair with his hands behind his head, and said with a smile, although the salary in this job is not much, it is still stable. I am quite satisfied with my life now. But this is too inferior, with your talent. Hey, what's the point of not giving in to talent? Wouldn't it be nice to live a mediocre life? Besides, I don't have any outstanding talents, Chin Mo said leisurely. This time, Li Mo didn't continue to speak. He suddenly remembered the first time he had a drink with Chin Mo at a roadside barbecue stand, and he had already expressed his attitude towards life at that moment. As a human being, the most important thing is to be happy, contented and always happy, Chin Mo said at the time. Li Mo was silent for a moment, and the thoughts that had arisen just now gradually subsided. He didn't have any thoughts because of Chin Mo's rejection, but a smile appeared between his brows and eyes. Chin Mo, since he feels that his current life is good and satisfied, there is no need to drag him into the troubled waters of the family. At this moment, Li Mo is in a clear state of mind, and will no longer continue to win over Chin Mo. At this time, Chin Mo didn't think too much at all. He didn't know what kind of opportunity he was rejecting, but asked with a smile. Speaking of which, brother, is there any good-looking young woman in your family? Please introduce one to me. What, you still want to play tricks on the children of my clan? Li Mo glanced at him indifferently, and with a thought, he suddenly said, my daughter is quite beautiful, it is not an exaggeration to say that she is a peerless beauty. Ahem, Chin Mo hurriedly said, forget it, bro, your daughter doesn't suit my personality. What's inappropriate, isn't it just a little willful? Li Mo stared. Ah, this, that, aha, I think it's getting late, and it's time for us to play a few games of chess. Chin Mo forcibly changed the subject. Li Mo didn't continue to ask, but just stared at him a few more times, and said sternly, today, you will return home without a feather. Okay. Afterwards, the two packed up their fishing gear and walked into a chess hall with a few fish hanging from them. Li Murder was full of aura. After an hour and a half, Li Muvong strode out triumphantly. He played a total of 3 games tonight, and he won 2 games, which was considered a small victory. Hey, my brother's chess skills are really strong, I am willing to bow down. Hearing these words, Li Mo became more and more in a good mood, and said lightly, young man, you are still a little tender, and you have to learn a lot from me in the future. Okay bro, let's go eat then. Although Chin Mo lost the game, he didn't seem downcast at all. Because he deliberately lost this game. With his current intelligence of 34 points, it is impossible to lose to Li Mo. But he thought, brother Li Mo has been upset enough because of family affairs recently, and it seems a bit bad to abuse him again, so it's better to let the water go. Afterwards, the two sat in front of the roadside barbecue stall as before, and ordered a table of skewers. While eating and chatting, Chin Mo thought to himself in his heart, I held my breath for a full 3 hours this time, which is 3 times stronger than the last time. In this way, if you continue to add more breaths in the follow-up, you may be able to last a day or even longer at a stretch. Quote, the skill of turtle breathing is actually not tasteless. When Chin Mo can fly behind, escape the planet's gravity and enter space, then it will show how useful this skill is. Not to mention, it will also affect the effect of exhaling ice. I don't know to what extent the exhalation ice has been strengthened. Can it freeze people directly? Chin Mo thought to himself. Soon, the night was getting darker, and the atmosphere at the dinner table became lively, with laughter from time to time. Chin Mo took out his phone to check the time, then filled Li Mo's glass with wine, and asked. Brother, it's getting late, do you think you want to go home, or prepare for the next game? Huh, and the next one? Li Mo was a little surprised, because in the past few times, Chin Mo went home directly, and his life seemed to be very self-disciplined. Isn't this old brother, you are feeling depressed recently? Now that you are out, I must accompany you to relax. Chin Mo said. Then what's the next game? Let's hear it. Hearing this, Chin Mo sat beside him, put his arms around his shoulders carelessly, put his head close to him, and put on a sneaky look. Seeing him like this, Li Mo looked suspicious, but he couldn't help but feel a little interest in his heart. Chin Mo lowered his voice and said mysteriously, it's already time, so the next one is of course, big health care. What is the big health care? Li Mo asked doubtfully. Ah, that's. Chin Mo didn't expect that he didn't even know this, so he leaned into his ear and explained in detail. After listening, Li Mo's old face froze. He really didn't expect Chin Mo was actually going to take him to a massage. You know, he is the current patriarch of the Qingyang Li clan, a dignified family with thousands of years old, Duke Li Guogong of the Great Qin dynasty, the director of the Security Bureau, and an S-level awakened person. Can he do this kind of thing? Who dares to ask him to do such a thing? But Li Mo has never been to this big health care. Ever since, on the late-night streets of the imperial capital, two free and lonely men appeared. Into the night, with the engine turned off, an expensive sports car suddenly stopped at the gate of Li Shi's manor in Qingyang. The butler opened the car door, and Li Yuan walked down with her long legs. Miss, welcome home. Well, I haven't seen Uncle Li for a long time. Li Yuan nodded. Madam mentions Miss many times on weekdays. I just learned that Miss is coming back. Madam is very happy. The butler's kind smile melted Li Yuan's cold face a little. She said a few days ago that she would go back to the family to have a look, and today is the right time. Soon, Li Yuan saw Mrs. Guogong in the living room. Mrs. took her hand and sat on the sofa, and asked her how she was doing outside recently with concern. Li Yuan answered one by one. She knew that her mother always missed her. You should come back to visit more often. After all, the Li family is your home, and your roots are here. In the future, I will come back often to see my mother. Li Yuan replied. Seeing this, the duke's wife nodded in relief, and said, Be careful when you go out. I heard from your father that the imperial capital has been full of chaos recently, and there are many restless factors. This imperial capital, I don't know how many pairs of eyes are staring at our Li family. You don't want to get hurt like last time. Quote. Mother, many things cannot be avoided. Li Yuan shook her head. She didn't continue this topic, but asked doubtfully, Where's father? Isn't he in the clan? I don't know where he went. Your father has been in a bad mood recently because of family affairs, and he is very depressed. But fortunately, he made a new friend, and the two would often play chess and eat together, which made him feel much better. Quote. Little friend. Li Yuan became more and more curious. Although she was dissatisfied with many of Li Mo's arrangements, she had to admit that Li Mo was a very powerful person. Whether it is strength or chess skills, it is not easy for someone who can play chess with him. Ma'am, miss, please have some tea. A refined voice rang in her ears, interrupting her thoughts. Li Yuan turned his head and saw Li Mo's secretary in the security bureau holding a pot of hot tea and putting it on the tea table. Seeing that it was him, Li Yuan couldn't help asking, Secretary Li, where is father? Miss, I don't know the whereabouts of the patriarch either. Secretary Li smiled and answered without any leaks. Hearing this, Madam stretched out her hand to pick up a cup of hot tea that was just handed over, blew on it lightly, took a sip slowly, and then asked with a smile. Even your secretary doesn't know. Have you ever met the little friend he mentioned? Mrs. Wei, I haven't seen you before. Secretary Li shook his head. Oh, Xiao Li, you are not covering for him, are you? Hearing this, Secretary Li quickly explained. Absolutely not. The patriarch is not such a person. The patriarch only has his wife in his heart. Mother, father is indeed not such a person. Li Yuan also said beside him. It's just a joke, it makes you too nervous. Madam sipped her tea lightly, with a smile on her face. Ah, use some force, yes, yes. Li Mo lay on the bed with his eyes closed, enjoying the professional technician's massage leisurely. How is it, brother, do you feel more relaxed? Qin Mo was lying beside him and asked with a smile. Hearing this, Li Mo didn't lift his eyelids an inch, just nodded slightly, and said calmly, It's really good. If you want me to say, brother, you have too much burden on your shoulders. You should have taken care of yourself and relaxed. Qin Mo also closed his eyes, and said, Little girls will finish their massage later, let's go soak again, and you will be drunk tonight. Drunk and dreaming, this brat, dare to say. Li Mo cursed secretly in his heart, but the corners of his mouth turned up instead. There is one thing to say, he really hasn't been so relaxed in a long time. When he was young in the early years, he also sneaked out to play, but since he took over the position of patriarch and became an S-level awakened person, he has never been so free. Now that he has enjoyed a transcendent status, he must also accept the invisible shackles that follow. Just like the Emperor of Dakan, Wouldn't he be trapped in the palace, unable to see the prosperity of the world all year round? Soon, the little girl retreated. Qin Mo and Li Mo rested for a few minutes, and then they followed each other into the steaming pool. Whoever takes a bath knows the fun of taking a bath. He stepped into the water, and the hot steam entered Qin Mo's body through every pore. He leaned against the pool and let out a long and comfortable sigh, but the next moment he suddenly moved his ears and heard a familiar voice. Brother Chu, how was that girl just now? Lin Shaoqi asked with eyebrows. It's okay. Chu Tianzhao replied flatly. After the words fell to the ground, the two opened the curtain, took off their bathrobes and went out of the pool. However, when Chu Tianzhao saw clearly who was on the other side of the pond, he wished he could turn into a thunderbolt and fly back to the border. As the proud son of the Chu family in Zhenbei, how could Chu Tianzhao not know the head of the Li family in Qingyang? He recognized Li Mo at a glance. When the junior sees the elder, he should say hello, but Chu Tianzhao's mouth is full of bitterness now, and his body is very stiff. It's okay to meet Li Mo by chance, the problem is that he shouldn't be seen in this place. The patriarch of the dignified Li family in Qingyang, the Duke of Qin, quietly went to do health care, if word got out. Hiss. Chu Tianzhao didn't dare to continue thinking. He twitched the corners of his mouth, showing an extremely ugly smile, his eyes wandered around, he wanted to play dumb. And it was just this flutter, Chu Tianzhao suddenly found Qin Mo's figure, and he couldn't help but thumped in his heart. Why is this guy here? He looked at Li Mo, then at Qin Mo, and a thought suddenly popped up in his heart. No wonder. Needless to say, Qin Mo's strength is very strong. Chu Tianzhao was puzzled at first, how could there be such a young and strong man in the imperial capital, but if it was someone from the Li family in Qingyang, then everything would be explained. It is very reasonable for an ancient family to cultivate children with extraordinary talents. I didn't expect the Li family to have such a person besides Crazy Li. Chu Tianzhao thought to himself. Naturally, Li Mo didn't know what Chu Tianzhao was thinking about. Now he is almost stupid. Who would have thought that in this kind of place, they would meet the youngsters of the Zhenbei Chu family and the Far East Lin family? Li Mo's old face froze for a moment, but he quickly squinted his eyes, and gave Chu Tianzhao a subtle look. Seeing this, Chu Tianzhao immediately understood and dared not say a word. He lowered his eyebrows and lowered his eyes, as if he didn't see anything. And seeing him like this, Qin Mo's hanging heart also let go. Tonight's him is also very unexpected. I didn't expect such a coincidence. Is it really a narrow road? It's just that he punched this guy yesterday, I don't know if he will seek revenge tonight. AB level awakened person, and he is suspected to be the arrogance of the Chu family, what if he hurts his brother by doing something like this? However, looking at it this way, that punch has beaten him honestly. Qin Mo couldn't help heaving a sigh of relief, and he also glanced at other places, pretending that he didn't know Chu Tianzhao at all. At this time, the three people in the pool, each with their own ulterior motives, were all pretending to be stupid. Except Lin Shaoqi. He had no idea of these twists and turns, and was the only real fool. The moment he saw Li Mo, Lin Shaoqi was shocked, and only now he recovered. He widened his eyes, opened his mouth and said, Chu, brother Chu, ouch. Before Lin Shaoqi could finish his sentence, Chu Tianzhao gave him a firm pinch, then turned his head and said to him solemnly. The water in this pool is too cold to soak comfortably. Let's change it. After all, he couldn't help but dragged Lin Shaoqi away from the pool with a strange atmosphere, and walked outside. When they left, Qin Mo and Li Mo both breathed a sigh of relief. However, after this encounter, both of them lost the intention to continue their health care. So not long after, Li Mo used an excuse to suddenly remember something at home and needed to go back to deal with it. Qin Mo didn't think too much, and readily agreed. Afterwards, the two got dressed, went out together, and separated. Seeing Qin Mo's back getting further and further away, a strange smile gradually appeared on Li Mo's face. He turned around and walked in another direction. As soon as he passed an intersection, Chu Tianzhao walked out from the side alley and said respectfully. Chu Tianzhao, a descendant of the Chu family in Zhenbei, met Li Guogong. Tianzhao, I have seen the achievements you have made on the border. You have done so at a young age, and your future is limitless. Li Mo walked up to him while talking, patted his shoulder, and said with a smile, "You have experienced 10 years in the border, and you should understand what you should do and what you should not do. It's just, what should be said, what should not be said, I don't know how you have learned." Quote. Hearing these words, Chu Tianzhao's back felt chills. He felt as if he was facing a huge dragon, and the faint power of the dragon permeated the surroundings. He didn't dare to move, his lips were dry, he nodded stiffly, and replied, "Duke, please rest assured, this junior didn't see anything tonight, and he doesn't know anything." Very good. Li Mo nodded in satisfaction, let go of his shoulders, and turned to leave. It was only after he had completely disappeared from sight that Chu Tianzhao straightened up slowly, beads of sweat oozing from his forehead. The oppressive force of the S rank awakened is really too great. At the same time, Lin Shaoqi from the alley also ran over. He looked at the end of the street and said curiously, "Brother Chu, isn't this Li Guogong? How could he?" "Be careful," Chu Tianzhao interrupted suddenly. He frowned his thick eyebrows, and ordered very seriously, "You mustn't say anything about this." Seeing his seriousness, Lin Shaoqi nodded quickly. "Brother Chu, don't worry, my mouth is tighter than Dakan's border defense." After 11 o'clock in the evening, Qin Mo returned home. Usually at this time, he would have already fallen asleep in bed. Because of Li Mo tonight, there was a rare exception to Qin Mo's regular life. But it doesn't matter, who made Li Mo his friend. Qin Mo doesn't have many friends, so he values this friendship very much. "However, even though I came back late, I still need to tidy up the room and wash it again by the way." By the time this was done, it was already 11:30, but Qin Mo was not in a hurry to go to bed and rest. With his current physical fitness, even if he didn't sleep all night, it wouldn't have any effect. His current intelligence is as high as 34 points, and his recovery is as high as 33 points, which brings him a very strong spirit and a strong battery life. At this time, I saw Qin Mo standing in the bathroom, naked, looking at the face reflected in the mirror and admiring it carefully. "Sure enough, he has become much more handsome," he murmured softly. Then, he stretched out his hand to turn on the faucet, looked at the gurgling tap water, took a deep breath, and let it out slowly. The temperature in the bathroom suddenly dropped a lot, and the flowing tap water condensed frost at a speed visible to the naked eye. After just a few seconds, the frost was completely solidified, and even a thick layer of ice shards appeared on the faucet. Qin Mo stretched out his hand, gently snapped it off, and with a bang, he took off the ice pick. He activated perspective and looked inside the ice pick, the corners of his mouth slowly raised. This time, the water flow was completely frozen whether it was inside or outside. Qin Mo turned his head to look inside the faucet again. The water at the outlet was also frozen into ice cubes. Compared with last time, there was a big difference. The exhalation ice after strengthening is no longer the same. Holding the ice pick, he exerted force slowly with his fingers, feeling the hardness of the ice pick. It was not until 3 seconds later that the sound of shattering came. "This strength can be used as a sharp blade," Qin Mo muttered, picked up the towel on the shelf and dried his hands. The short experiment has already given him a rough grasp of the strength of the enhanced skills. The days when you can freeze people into ice cubes with just one breath are not far away, you just need to work hard to accumulate light energy points. After finishing these, Qin Mo was ready to fall asleep. Lying on the bed, looking at the ceiling, he couldn't help but recall what happened tonight, with a deep doubt in his heart. Is that man Chu Tianzhao? Unfortunately, no one can answer him. Although the current Qin Mo has become an awakened person, he is still too far away from those ancient families that have stood in Great Qin for thousands of years. The descendants of the aristocratic family that he had close contact with were nothing more than Li Yuan. If the circles are different, it is difficult to have a meeting point in life. Even if it is forced to integrate, it will only fail in the end. For example, Li Chengfeng and the others tried their best to make friends with the children of the aristocratic family, so it's still not Mao's result. Losing money and laughing with him, how aggrieved it is. If you want him to do the same, it is impossible in this life. Thinking like this, Qin Mo soon fell asleep. Nothing to say all night. Dawn the next day. Qin Mo opened his eyes on time at 6 o'clock as usual. His biological clock is very strong. I made a simple breakfast at home and glanced at the weather forecast by the way. Today is a sunny day, the temperature can reach a maximum of 34 degrees, but tomorrow will be cloudy and there may be thunderstorms in the evening. Chin-mo doesn't care much about the changes in the weather. It always rains in summer. What can be done about it? Afterwards, he washed up and left the house, running all the way towards the security bureau. When entering the 7th group, the clock on the wall just reached 9 o'clock. Chin-mo sat down at the workstation with a thermos cup in his hand, and found a suitable angle to ensure sufficient light. Next, he took out a tissue and wiped the table, computer screen, and mouse in a slow manner. He even took the time to wipe the glass of the window next to him, which looked very bright. Such a waste of time, an hour passed before I knew it. As a qualified fishing youth, these are the basic operations. If it weren't for accumulating light spots for more sun exposure, Chin-mo would go to the toilet to defecate for half an hour with pay. Even so, time passed quickly, and before he could read the news for a few minutes, it was time for dinner. Chin-mo and Su-yin went to the cafeteria of the security bureau together. After eating, he was called by Su-yin to play a few games of billiards. With his current eyesight, intelligence and strength, it is too difficult to lose to Su-yin. Ever since, Chin-mo abused her so severely for more than an hour, which made Su-yin look at him very resentfully. I didn't talk to him much all afternoon, obviously very depressed. The bored Chin-mo had no choice but to bask in the sun while turning his gaze to the small office. The walls quietly turned into illusion, revealing the inner scene. Li Yuan wasn't behind the desk this time, but was standing by the window, showing off her long legs wantonly, and by the way, smoked a cigarette. Chin-mo was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Li Yuan to have such a little habit, but soon he looked normal and didn't care. He knew about Li Yuan's little secret. She had been having conflicts with the Qingyang Li family, so she must have been upset from time to time. However, the family is exactly like this. Although the branches are lush and can shelter from the wind and rain, they are also intertwined, and it is rare to be free. Sure enough, whether it's a 1,000-year-old family like the Li family in Qingyang, or Brother Li Mo's small family, there are a lot of troubles. It's still comfortable to come here alone. It would be nice to have a home. Why is it so big? Chin-mo shook his head and thought to himself. The cigarette burns very fast, and a cigarette is quickly exhausted. Li Yuan licks the cigarette butt, and the worry in his brows and eyes disappears quickly. She returned to her usual unapproachable appearance, and sat back behind the desk. Chin-mo also looked away and didn't continue to look. In this way until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, a warm current suddenly appeared in his body. Today's light energy points have been accumulated again. Chin-mo's eyes focused on his eyes, and he opened the Superman Gene Awakening panel. Eyesight, 44. Listening, 33. Intelligence, 34. Breathing, 33. Strength, 46. Speed, 43. Recovery, 33. Defense, 42. Skills, holographic vision, perspective, radar, thermal imaging, deliberate punching, gushing thoughts, tortoise's breath, rapid healing, fighting cattle across mountains, supersonic speed, man of steel 2 level, clear at a glance, supersound, quick recovery, exhalation freezing, microscopic vision, elemental immunity. Light energy points, 16, freely assignable. Looking at the various attributes displayed on the panel, Chin-mo frowned slightly, thoughtfully. The 4 items of vision, strength, speed, and defense have the highest values. I usually allocate the most light energy points, but now except for strength, the other 3 items have reached the 3rd threshold. Is it so difficult for the 3rd time of strength? Chin-mo had been wondering about this a few days ago, but he felt that points were being allocated to strength every day anyway, and it might be achieved soon. But now it seems that it is obvious that strong medicine is needed. Therefore, Chin-mo resolutely decided to adjust the allocation plan today, and he directly took out 6 points and added all of them to strength. As for eyesight, speed, and defense, as always, add 2 points to each, and the last 4 points, and the remaining 4 attributes are assigned 1 point each, which can be regarded as even rain and dew. The warm current quickly spread to every corner of his body, and a message finally appeared in front of his eyes. Strength, 52, awakening skill, super power. The strength finally reached the 3rd threshold. Chin Mo was very curious about how powerful the new skill unlocked after spending so many light energy points. I have to say that the name of the new skill is really simple and rude, and its effect is the same. Super power, multiplied. It is similar to thinking like a spring. It can temporarily break through the upper limit on the basis of the original strength to obtain even more terrifying power. Moreover, once it breaks through, it will double the growth. In the future, as the light energy points continue to increase in power, this doubling will also increase accordingly. Chin Mo can only double it now, and can double, triple, or even 10 times it in the future. Of course, super strength also has sequelae, and the body will be extremely tired after using it. But fortunately, Chin Mo's current recovery has reached 34 points, and his physical fatigue will recover quickly, which will bring him a higher battery life. This time the warm current lasted much longer than before, and it seemed to be improving his body in an all-round way. Walking on the way home, Chin Mo's height was growing silently. He broke through again from the previous 186 centimeters, and grew to 190 centimeters, which is a full head taller than the beginning. This kind of height growth rate is really amazing. At the same time, his body line, muscle ratio, and bone strength are also changing. Only a strong body can support better strength. Now Chin Mo already has abdominal muscles, and under the loose clothes is a perfect ketone body that fascinates countless women. Chin Mo was very satisfied with this. After all, who wouldn't want to be more handsome? It took about 8 minutes before the warmth in his body disappeared. Chin Moxu clenched his fists, let out a long breath, and smiled brightly on his face. While walking, he could feel the extremely abundant power in his body. This brought him strong self-confidence. Chin Mo felt that he could at least be able to defend 10 girls at night, and it would not be a problem for him to fight for 3 days. But I just went to the general health care yesterday. If I go again today, forget it. Young people still have to be more restrained. Concentrating on his small thoughts, Chin Mo trotted all the way towards his home. When he passed by a noodle shop, he naturally turned in and ate 5 bowls of ramen. Waiting to eat and drink enough, but did not go home directly, but turned halfway to the construction site. It was getting dark now. The construction site was off work, and there were only a few people who stayed behind in the middle of the night. Chin Mo walked to a corner, jumped up, and easily crossed the wire fence. He wanted to test his strength along the way. After casually looking around for a few times, he suddenly exploded in speed and appeared next to a tower crane in an instant, then stretched out his right hand, held the tower crane and slowly lifted it up. Soon, the tower crane was half a meter above the ground, but he didn't feel it. He didn't feel any weight at all. Chin Mo was very depressed about this. Hey, my current strength should have exceeded 100 tons, and the super strength I have exploded can reach more than 200 tons. It is difficult to find something to explore the limit of strength. He shook his head, feeling bored, put the tower crane back to its original position, and ran out of the construction site in a hurry. A few seconds later, Chin Mo took out the key and opened the door. The next step is to tidy up the room day after day, wash up, swipe the phone to browse club information, and then go to bed. The next day, at 7 in the morning, Chin Mo went out early, and was sitting at the door of a roadside breakfast shop selling whose spicy soup, eating steamed buns. Jingle bell. Suddenly, the phone ringing in his pocket interrupted his eating. Chin Mo took out his mobile phone and found that it was Su Yin calling. After connecting, he spoke first. Hey, Sister Su, what's the matter this early in the morning? Are you up yet? I must have woken up, and I've been out for half an hour, and I'm going to the bureau soon. Chin Mo swallowed the steamed stuffed bun and replied. What, you got up so early? Su Yin was stunned, and then she continued. Don't go to the bureau now. The team leader has just issued a notice. We will be on a mission today. We will gather at 9 o'clock. I will send you the exact location later. Going out on a mission. Chin Mo frowned slightly, and he asked suspiciously, what is the mission this time? How many of us are needed? I'm also wondering. I don't know the specific situation. Let's talk about it when we meet. My sister, I haven't woken up yet. I have to take a shower. Hang up first. Su Yin yawned, and then hung up the phone neatly. A minute later, she sent a text message, which was the assembly point of the 7 groups. Chin Mo glanced at it, and muttered in a low voice, look at this, this is about to leave the imperial capital. He stuffed the last bun into his mouth, then paid the bill, got up and rushed towards the meeting point. Anyway, the meeting was only at 9 o'clock, and there was still plenty of time, so Chin-mo chose to go for a run, so that he could absorb the energy of the sun along the way. When he arrived at the place, it was exactly 9 o'clock in 10 minutes, and several other people in the 7th group were already waiting. They drove 2 6-seater black cars. However, there were 3 cars parked on the side of the road. Chin-mo, here it is. Su-yin leaned against the car and waved to him. Hearing this, he stepped forward to say hello to Su-yin. Li Yuan, who was standing aside, glanced at him, and then said calmly, "Since everyone is here, let me explain the content of this task." Everyone nodded in unison and turned their attention to her. This mission is very simple. We are going to Linjun, 500 miles away, to have a brief docking with the military. We will probably be back tonight. What she said was very vague. She didn't say that she was someone from the military, nor did she say that she was going to connect with something. In short, she just went to Linjun. This made Chin-mo feel suspicious, but he was not in a hurry to investigate right now. Afterwards, Li Yuan assigned tasks to the 7 groups of people. The task of Li Changfeng and the awakened ones is to sit. Yes, literally, they just need to sit in the car, close their eyes, rest their minds, and recharge their energy, and they don't need to do anything else. As for the 4 ordinary people, Chin-mo and Su-yin, they were divided into 2 groups and took turns driving. Co-author, this time I took them purely because it was too far away, so I needed a coolie driver. Su-yin was speechless for a while, her expression was obviously not good-looking. Naturally, she was assigned to the same car with Chin-mo. Li Yuan, Li Changfeng, and Wang Yan were also with her, and the rest took another car. Soon, the navigation was turned on, the engine started, and a group of 3 unmarked black cars slowly drove away from the imperial capital. Su-yin was driving now, and Chin-mo was sitting in the co-pilot's seat. They were at the back of the convoy, and the strange black car was in front of them. No one got out of the car, and the privacy film was pasted on the windows. No one knew who was sitting in the car. Perhaps Li Yuan would know, but just now Li Yuan did not mention this. Then, he had to go and see for himself. Chin-mo, who was leaning on the seat, quietly turned on the perspective, let go of his hearing, and looked forward. All the camouflage lost its effect in front of his eyes, and the 6 figures in the car revealed their true colors. Chin-mo had never seen 5 of them, but he recognized one of them. The person sitting in the middle of the car is the director of the security department, Li Mo. This task, even the director is involved, it seems that it is not as simple as the team leader said. Chin-mo thought to himself, Li Mo is a high-level awakener. If it is an ordinary task, how can he do it himself? This is an easy inference to make, not to mention that this time the security bureau dispatched more than one high-level awakener. Chin-mo has opened the holographic vision, and now the entire convoy is under his surveillance, and everyone's thermal images are clearly visible. Needless to say, the people in the 7th group, but in the car Li Mo was in, there were 2 C-level awakened people and 3 D-level awakened people. Such a lineup is already quite strong. He wanted to find out the real task content, but Li Mo and the others didn't speak at all, and they were all silent along the way. Chin-mo had no choice but to keep an eye on himself and beware of any accidents. There are so many ghosts in the security bureau, ghosts know whether Tiandi will seize this opportunity and continue to fight on the road. But until 1 o'clock at noon, when they arrived in Linjun, nothing happened. This way, very smooth. It seemed that Chin-mo was suspicious. A group of people will stay in Linjun for half an hour, and take advantage of this short free time to have lunch. As for Li Mo and the others, they definitely won't come down. They parted ways with Group 7 when they first entered Lin Town. At this time, Chin-mo was picking up the noodles in the bowl, while using his super hearing to secretly listen to the movements of Li Mo and others. I saw the car driving slowly to the other side of the town, the speed gradually slowed down, and someone rolled down the window at the same time. On the opposite side of them, a military off-road vehicle drove towards them. The 2 cars didn't stop, as if the targets were not each other, they crossed directly. But at the moment of staggering, a black box was handed into Li Mo's hands from the off-road vehicle. Afterwards, the window of the black car slowly rolled up, as if nothing happened. Chin Mo narrowed his eyes slightly and his eyes flickered. Although he didn't see it, everything that could make a sound was reflected to him by the radar. After a series of analysis and processing by the brain, a line picture is automatically formed in his mind, as if he saw it with his own eyes at the scene. It seems that the director is the one who really wants to communicate with the military on this trip. The seventh group is just trying to deceive people and deliberately pull them out to attract attention. Chin Mo thought to himself. He was very curious about what was in the box, and it was so solemn. In a moment, though, he'll be able to see it for himself. Half an hour flew by, and after Li Changfeng and the others finished their meal, Li Yuan came from a distance carrying a black box and boarded the car. This box is exactly the same as the one in Li Mo's hand. No matter its size or weight, if it is not opened, it is extremely difficult to distinguish. Let's go. Li Yuan didn't open the box to look after getting in the car, and put it directly beside him. Hearing this, Chin Mo nodded slightly, turned the key, and started the engine. The tires rubbed against the ground quickly, and while he was controlling the steering wheel, he turned on the perspective again. The car shell, seat and black box were all penetrated by Chin Mo's eyes, and a shining blue light suddenly entered his line of sight. Huh, this is... Chin Mo frowned. He actually saw an ice pick in the box. The ice pick has long arms, thick wrists, white body, uneven surface, and blue patterns surround it, not engraved, but natural. It's not like an ice pick, it's more like a work of art. Chin Mo didn't notice anything unusual just by looking at it with the naked eye. He didn't know what the ice pick was. However, it is definitely not unusual for the Security Bureau to dispatch several high-level awakened people so much trouble. What the hell is it? Chin Mo was very puzzled, but no one could give him an answer at this time. In this way, the group returned to the imperial capital by the same route. At about 3:30, Su Yin replaced him, and then Chin Mo sat in the co-pilot. The warm afternoon sun shines on his face through the front windshield, continuously providing him with light energy points. So, until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, several overcast clouds blocked the sun behind, the sky gradually darkened, and the wind blew outside. Chin Mo suddenly remembered that the weather forecast he read yesterday said that there might be thunderstorms this evening. It seems that Dakin's weather forecast is as accurate as ever. The clouds gathered more and more, the sun disappeared completely, and a warm current appeared in Chin Mo's body. Light energy points, 12, freely assignable. Today's light energy point is 4 points less than yesterday's, which is still affected by the weather. As usual, add 2 points to vision, strength, speed, and defense each, and divide the remaining 4 points equally between intelligence and breathing, and warm currents quickly surge throughout the body. Intelligence, 37, the skill thinking is like a spring, and it is clear at a glance to strengthen. The fading warm current poured into the brain again. Chin Mo slowly opened his eyes, feeling the changes in his body carefully. It was within his expectation that intelligence was strengthened, and these two skills were quite comprehensive skills, and the strengthening was not a single aspect. In short, Chin Mo's analysis, learning, memory, reasoning and other aspects have been greatly strengthened. Especially the analysis processing, which directly affects the coverage of the holographic horizon. Seeing that he was about to return to the imperial capital, Chin Mo didn't try it at this time, and was not in a hurry. He looked out through the car window and saw the trees swaying. The wind outside was getting stronger and stronger, endless dark clouds enveloped the sky, thunder roared, and a flash of lightning appeared from time to time. Su Yin had already turned on the headlights and raised her spirits. Pat, clack, the rain in summer falls as soon as it is said. Bean-sized raindrops hit the glass hard, and it turned into a downpour almost in an instant. The rain covered most of the line of sight and affected everyone's speed. Suddenly, Su Yin slammed on the brakes and suddenly slammed on the brakes. The few people sitting in the car were pulled forward by 3 points due to inertia, and leaned back heavily on the back chairs. What's going on? Li Yuan frowned and asked lightly. Team leader, I don't know, it's because the car in front stopped suddenly. Su Yin replied. Hearing this, Li Yuan moved closer to take a look, and it was true what Su Yin said, which made her frown even tighter. Chin Mo, Li Changfeng, you two go down and have a look. She calmly ordered. Yes, Li Changfeng agreed. then opened the car door, and walked down in the pouring rain. Chin Mo didn't want to get caught in the rain, but he had no choice but to get out of the car. In fact, he already knew what happened in front of him. One of the tires of the front car suddenly blew up. It seems, it was an accident. The two walked to the front car, and Li Changfeng went back to report to Li Yuan after seeing it. Those people in the car were changing tires in the rain. They had brought spare tires with them on this trip, and they could troubleshoot the problem within 5 minutes and go back on the road. It's a heavy rain, a colleague cursed in a low voice. Yeah, already at the door. If something like this happens, God will fight against our brothers. Another person echoed. Listening to the complaints of several people, Chin Mo narrowed his eyes, quietly let go of the holographic vision, and instantly covered a radius of 600 meters. This is the change brought about by the enhancement of intelligence, and the scope of the holographic vision has doubled. All the troubles within 600 meters were known to Chin Mo, but he didn't find any other awakened people, nor did he find any abnormalities. In fact, Chin Mo didn't find any traces of man-made tire blowout this time, and everything looked like a coincidence. But that was exactly what felt wrong to him. If something goes wrong, there must be a demon. How could there be such a coincidence? Time passed by every minute and every second, and 5 minutes passed quickly. The new tires had been replaced. Everyone clapped their hands and prepared to return to the car quickly. Up to now, no accidents have happened. Could it be that I'm overthinking it? Chin Mo was suspicious in his heart. However, at the moment when the car door opened, everyone was most relaxed at this moment. A sudden roar from 1 kilometer away suddenly reached Chin Mo's ears. Thunder, heavy rain, beside the road. A cannonball, like a girl in a hurry to get married, was speeding towards her beloved man at high speed, breaking into Chin Mo's holographic vision unreasonably. And the shell landed on the black car that Li Mo was in. 600 meters, for shells, less than a second. The window of the black car was rolled down at some point, and one arm was stretched out of the window. The arm quickly became thicker, and the sleeve was bursting, and the 5 fingers spread out like tiger claws. At the next moment, the shell hit the tiger's claw fiercely. Boom! The shell exploded, choking smoke spewed out in an instant, covering all 3 cars in the security office. At this moment, everyone in the rainy night completely lost their sight and direction, and all became blind. It was a smoke bomb. Clatter. The car door rang, and all the awakened people in the 7th group got out of the car at this moment, and several people also got out of the black car in the middle. On a rainy night in the dark, the smog filled the air, and they couldn't see anything. Li Yuan and the others could only rely on the car to quickly surround the surrounding area, guarding against attacks from unknown directions. At the same time, when the security office responded, dozens of figures suddenly appeared in Chin Mo's holographic vision. They spread out and quickly surrounded them from both sides of the road. According to the distribution of thermal imaging, Chin Mo immediately judged the strength of the Tiandaway group. 2 B levels, 4 C levels, and the rest are below D levels. There are a total of 30 people. Chin Mo frowned, deeply shocked. In this attack, the opponent's current strength on paper already has 6 high-level awakened people, which is an extremely powerful lineup. You know, the B-level awakened ones are already able to fight against an army, and Li Mo is the only one in the security office who can compete with them. High-level awakened people are not Chinese cabbages on the side of the road, how can they be so common? What is the origin of Tiandaway? Where did they find so many people? Why was there no news before? At this moment, Chin Mo's heart was full of doubts. But he didn't bother to think too much. The first thing to solve was the crisis before him. From the current point of view, they are completely at a disadvantage, whether it is the number of people, their level, or the right time and place. The strength of Tiandaway this time is twice as much as that of the security department. If there is no accident, the names of Li Mo and Li Yuan will appear on the security bureau's sacrifice list tomorrow. However, Chin Mo is still here. Whether it was rainy night or smog, it had no effect on him. Likewise, it doesn't make any difference to him whether it's a B rank or an F rank. In just a few seconds, the people of the Tiandaway had already entered the area shrouded in smoke. Chen Lingling is providing assistance remotely, and her current location is 2 kilometers away. All the awakened people, whether it is the 7th group or the Tiandaway, all exist in the form of red dots in her mind. As for Su Yin and those ordinary people, there is no sign of them. No one will care about ordinary people, they cannot pose any threat, and any aftermath may take their lives. Li Mo is still in the original position, he has not moved, and the elemental crystal is still in his hand. Chen Lingling's voice rang in the minds of the 6 high-level awakened people of the Tiandaway. After hearing that, the 6 people sped up their speed and rushed in the original direction. Among them, there is a plump woman in a tight leather jacket. She is one of the B-level awakeners this time. When there was still 30 meters away from the black car, the woman suddenly stopped in her tracks. She flipped her palms, and a flame burst out from them. The flames lingered and rose, turning into a flaming spear. Whoosh! There was a sound of piercing through the air, and the spear pointed at the black car and stabbed it fiercely. At this time, Li Mo, who was still sitting in the car, looked extremely ugly. He never expected that he would encounter such a powerful interception when he was about to enter the imperial capital. Moreover, the goal of Tiandaway's trip is obviously not just for this elemental crystal. They still want to kill themselves. The flame spear spanned a distance of 30 meters almost instantly, the powerful high temperature scorched the surrounding air, and even dried up the heavy rain that fell nearby. Li Mo finally put down the suitcase in his hand, he closed his eyes slowly, the car suddenly became very dark. At a certain moment, the darkness surged like sticky tentacles, interweaving into a pitch-black curtain, blocking the front of the spear, swallowing it silently. Li Mo, a Class B elemental awakener, the element he controls is the dark element. The battle is imminent. The high-level awakeners from both sides have already fought. A behemoth more than 3 meters tall appeared in the smoke. His exposed skin was as hard as steel, and his hairs were like steel needles. Judging from its appearance, it has nothing to do with humans, it looks more like a terrifying black bear. The black bear raised its arm and slammed it down, causing the black car to collapse and be scrapped instantly. However, a black shadow suddenly appeared on the ground 3 meters away, and Li Mo's body emerged from the shadow, holding the box in his hand. Before he could rest for a moment, the second flaming spear shot towards his head. 2 against 1, the outcome seems to be clear. Su Yin is panicking now, her legs are shaking in panic. This was the first time she participated in the battle between the awakened, but just at the beginning, she felt a deep sense of powerlessness. An ordinary person like her is of no use at this time. Crackling raindrops hit the glass crazily, playing a melody of death, as if heralding the end of tonight. Su Yin was the only one left in the car. At this moment, hiding in the car is undoubtedly the safest, most sensible, and most correct choice, not one of them. However, Qin Mo was not in the car. When he went to the front to check the fault just now, he got out of the car and never came back. Su Yin's expression changed, her eyes struggled, her trembling hands left the steering wheel, slowly stretched to her waist, and held the cold pistol handle. You must not die, my mother will save you right away. Gradually clenching her 5 fingers, she pulled out the pistol abruptly, and pulled the safety off. Her eyes were firm, and there was no sign of struggle. Su Yin opened the car door neatly, stepped out of the car, held guns in both hands, and walked vigilantly towards the car ahead in the direction she remembered. She couldn't see anything, she could only hear the chaotic footsteps around her, and she was terrified at this moment. But I don't know if it was because of Su Yin's good luck, or because of other reasons, she walked for more than 10 meters without encountering any danger. Moreover, those chaotic footsteps also turned into another sound at this time, like. A watermelon fell to the ground and shattered. Boom. Qin Mo punched out the head of the D rank in front of him, and the head fell to the ground. Because of the terrifying force, it exploded directly, extremely bloody. He turned around, looked at Su Yin who was walking forward with a strange expression, and muttered secretly in his heart. What is Sister Su running out at this time? Qin Mo shook his head, exploded at supersonic speed, disappeared in place in an instant, and appeared behind another D-level awakened person from the Tiandaway. Immediately afterwards, there was another crisp punch, killing one person again. With his current strength of 54 points, killing a few low-level awakened people is no different from cutting melons and vegetables. In the torrential rain, Qin Mo kept disappearing in place. And every time he appears, a dazzling blood flower will bloom in the rainy night. He is like a god of death walking in the rainy night, silently waving the sickle in his hand, harvesting people's lives. Fear, panic, unknown. All kinds of complex emotions are like infectious diseases, spreading crazily and rapidly among the awakened people of the Tiandaway. Where is the enemy? Location. I want to know the location. Chen Lingling, are you dead? ... Countless chaotic voices rang out in her mind, which made Chen Lingling's face pale by 3 points. She was sitting in the car with the heater and air conditioner turned on, but the thin clothes on her body were already soaked in cold sweat from her. Seeing the red dots gradually disappearing in her mind, Chen Lingling's breathing was very short. Where is the other party? She was very anxious, and she also wanted to know this question, but Chen Mo's speed was too fast. This scene seemed familiar. Chen Lingling suddenly thought of the Imperial Capital Hospital, and also thought of the factory not long ago. Both times, she was sitting here dumbfounded as she is now. There is no other way but to watch his companions die in front of his eyes. The battle between the B-level awakeners was still going on, but Chen Lingling slowly opened her eyes, and leaned against the back of the chair weakly, with no trace of blood on her face. This operation has failed. She thought so. Surging dark tentacles appeared from Li Mo's back, turned into a barrier, and blocked the black bear. Boom! The black bear's fist landed heavily on the barrier, Li Mo's body sank, and he knelt down on one knee, feeling a sweetness in his throat. Facing 2 B-level awakeners whose strength is not inferior to his, Li Mo can't attack at all, and can only defend passively and try his best to support. But with the passage of time and every minute, the final result is already clear at a glance. The black bear dropped its fist again and made a loud noise. Li Mo's spine bent a little more, and all the bones in his body were trembling. At the same time, the strong wind was blowing, and another flaming spear shot from afar. Heaven and earth will cooperate very well, one for close combat and one for long-distance attack, which makes Li Mo feel a little bit stretched. He raised his arm, clenched his fingers tightly, and several tentacles appeared in the darkness, trying to intercept the spear. But I never thought that the black bear kicked out suddenly, increased the pressure, and immediately restrained most of Li Mo's energy, which made the dark tentacles not stop the spear. At this moment, Li Mo's pupils shrank sharply, the spear grew bigger and bigger in his eyes, and a cluster of flames reflected in his pupils. However, in the next instant, the flames suddenly disappeared, replaced by a black shadow that suddenly appeared. Call. Chen Mo stood in front of Li Mo, took a deep breath, and then let it out slowly. The extremely cold air was exhaled from his lungs, and the high-speed flying flaming spear was blown out. The woman in leather was stunned. She never thought that this would happen. Looking at the looming Chen Mo through the mist, the woman's face gradually became serious, but what shocked her even more was yet to come. In the blink of an eye, she suddenly lost sight of Chen Mo, and the face of the woman in leather changed suddenly. Tang! Her reaction could not be described as unpleasant. The blazing flames instantly covered her whole body, directly turning herself into a burning man. But who would have thought that a strong arm passed through the flames without obstruction and grabbed her neck? The woman was completely dumbfounded. This person, why does the fire element have no effect on him at all? Unfortunately, she will never know the answer. Chen Mo's 5 fingers slowly exerted force, lifting her up and crushing her throat easily. A B-level fire elemental awakener just died under his hands. Chen Mo didn't feel sorry for her. He let go of his hand and let the woman's naked body fall to the ground. The raindrops hit the white chest, like a beautiful picture scroll. Immediately afterwards, a supersonic explosion broke out, and Chen Mo appeared in front of the black bear in an instant. It wasn't until this moment that Black Bear realized that his companion was actually dead. A flash of astonishment flashed in his eyes, and then he let out a roar, and his body size skyrocketed again, becoming about 3 feet tall. 3 feet, about the height of a 3-story building. It is conceivable what kind of giant Chen Mo is facing. He is like a hill, lying in the middle of the road. This B-level mimic awakener has already displayed the most extreme strength in his life. Facing Chen Mo, he dare not have the slightest reservation. Such a powerful body means terrifying power. He Shang slapped out his palm, and his palm was almost as big as Chen Mo's whole man. Seeing him like this, Chen Mo felt a little apprehensive in his heart. Without hesitation, he immediately used his super power. The ultimate strength instantly doubled from the original basis, and Chinmo even used a deliberate punch to increase the super strength again. He's not a fool, and of course he won't go head-to-head with a bear's paw. I saw Chinmo jumping up, and his terrifying jumping ability made him stand higher than the black bear. Then, he aimed his raised right fist at the black bear's huge head, and smashed it down heavily. This punch, ignoring the powerful defense of the black bear's body, directly affected the inside of his body. Boom! Suddenly there was a loud noise in the rainy night. That is, the sound of the black bear falling to the ground. His round eyes were full of horror, and he didn't even think about what kind of monster he had encountered before he died. One punch killed AB level mimic system, and easily crushed AB level elemental system. Except for terror, all the words seemed so pale and powerless at this moment. Seeing this, Chen Lingling, who was 2 kilometers away, didn't hesitate at all. She simply started the engine and drove away quickly. Although there are still a few C levels and a group of F levels left in Tiandui's operatives. But none of these people can escape, they all have to die, and the best result is to be captured. Leaving aside this mysterious person, just Li Mo, AB rank, is enough to set the stage for the battle. In short, Tiandui's actions this time, except for her, have wiped out all the troops. Chen Lingling needs to return to the imperial capital immediately and report the matter to the higher authorities, so that the follow-up strategic arrangements can be adjusted in time. At this moment, sitting in the driver's seat, her hands holding the steering wheel were shaking uncontrollably. Her face was full of fear. Soon, the battle was completely over. It was still raining heavily, but the smoke had started to clear away. The appalling corpses caught everyone's eyes, and the 7 groups supported each other and limped together. Until this moment, Li Changfeng and others discovered that the person who had been sitting in that mysterious black car was actually the director. Keep vigilant, don't relax, stay on guard, and wait for the backup from the imperial capital. Carrying the box, Li Mo calmly ordered that he notified the other teams of the security department right after the battle, and they would be there within a quarter of an hour. The importance of elemental crystallization is self-evident. It is not a good idea to venture forward, and there is also a need for follow-up processing here. Of course, the most critical factor is, the car has been scrapped. Hearing this, everyone claimed yes, braved the heavy rain and stood apart, protecting Li Mo in the middle. Qin Mo was no exception. He was standing with Su Yin, and the two of them were talking in a low voice. Sister Su, I'm fine. TCH, that's because you were lucky this time, what about next time? What about next time? Su Yin tugged at his ear, and said bitterly, be smarter next time, Li Changfeng can come back first, why can't you? Hiss, it hurts, I know. Qin Mo pretended to be in pain. Okay, sister is too lazy to bother with you. Su Yin let go of her hand, turned her head to one side, and said casually. She didn't tell him that she got out of the car to look for Qin Mo. In her opinion, it was unnecessary. However, Qin Mo had already seen everything in his eyes. The corners of his mouth slowly turned up. Although his body was standing in the heavy rain, his heart was warmer than a stove in winter. This night, after killing 2 B levels in a row, Qin Mo gained a deeper understanding of his strength, speed, defense and other attributes. His current strength, even if he can't match the A level awakened, is definitely the pinnacle of the B level. During this period of time, Qin Mo has been continuously accumulating light energy points and strengthening himself, and just now is the time to accept his results at this stage. It now appears that the fruit has been very rich. Qin Mo's strength is steadily improving. Not long after, more than a dozen cars drove quickly from the direction of the imperial capital, and the people from the security office finally arrived. Everyone didn't need to continue to get in the rain, and hurried into the car. At this time, in a car in the middle, Li Mo was leaning on the back of the seat, holding the black box in his hand. Along the way, he almost never left the box. Next to Li Mo, sat his secretary and his deputy, the thin man with glasses. The lean man took out his mobile phone, dialed a number, and handed it to Li Mo. The call was connected quickly, and Li Mo's back straightened unconsciously, with a serious expression, and said respectfully, Father, the troubles of the Tiandaway have been resolved. You really have a clever plan, and you have arranged such a powerful backer in advance. Li Mo, Listening to the continuous voice on the phone, Li Mo was stunned. Tiandui's attack, the backhand. He understood the meaning of individual words, but when they were combined together, they suddenly became incomprehensible to him. However, Li Mo did not express his doubts, but hummed lightly, and said slowly as usual. I see, you will sort out the detailed records of this mission later. He ordered a few words, and then hung up the phone neatly. Sitting in the study, watching the endgame of Go in front of him, Li Mo did not move for a long time. Not long ago, there was a great victory from the border. The great Qin god of war Sha Zhu beheaded AS-level Qi state in front of the battle, and his reputation spread far and wide. The S rank that was beheaded was an awakened ice element. Qi Guo did not take back his body, so the precipitated elemental crystals naturally fell into the hands of Qin Guo. Today's secret operation is to transport the elemental crystals back to the imperial capital and put them in the treasure house. But now it seems that the action has nothing to do with the word secret, and the mission content has been leaked out again. It seems that there is a big fish hiding in the house. Li Mo squinted his eyes, and a faint dragon prestige spread out. His action this time directly crossed the intelligence department, so it proved that there was an inner ghost with a higher status and deeper hiding in their Li family. For him, this is bad news. But fortunately, the final result of this mission was good. There were no casualties in the security bureau, and the elemental crystals were still in their hands. It was safe and sound. However, what Li Mo said made him confused. A mysterious unknown high-level awakened person. I only know Qin Mo recently. Could it be that kid? Li Mo looked suspicious, and thought to himself, but Xiao Mo is already a B-level awakened person, and the Tiandui's attack will only be stronger. That kid Qin Mo did kill a C ranker with one punch last time, but he is only 23 years old this year. How is that possible? Li Mo couldn't figure it out. His perception of the past decades seemed to be being impacted, and he couldn't figure out the key point with just a few words. It seems that we can only wait for the task to be recorded. Li Mo heaved a sigh of relief, shook his head, casually picked up a black piece, and landed in the middle of a pile of white pieces on the chessboard. The endgame is broken. After 6 o'clock in the evening, Li Mo and others returned to the security bureau. It was still raining outside, and there were bursts of thunder, which tended to get bigger and bigger. In the office of the 7th group, Li Changfeng and others were gathering together, blowing on the warm air and air conditioner, and drying their clothes. The awakened ones formed a circle of their own, keeping Qin Mo and Su Yin out. At this time, Wang Yan said in a low voice, I saw it, the black bear is at least 3 feet tall, and it is definitely a high-level mimic awakener. That's right, Sister Yanzi's conjecture should be true. The director looks like he's obviously gone through a tough fight. Someone echoed. They were in the thick fog at that time, they couldn't see anything, and they had to fight with the enemies of the Tiandaway, so they didn't know what happened. You can only deduce something from the corpse in the battlefield. Recalling what happened tonight, everyone felt a little bit sad in their hearts. They didn't know the content of the mission beforehand, and they didn't expect the director to follow them. Tonight, it's definitely not just the people from the office who participated in the battle. Wang Yan said suddenly. Hearing this, Li Changfeng nodded first. He lowered his voice and said affirmatively, that's right, the Qingyang Li family should have mobilized their family forces. Mr. Li personally took action, so what about the high-level awakened ones? What about the Tiandaway? They don't know the horror of the 1,000-year-old family. Suddenly, a colleague said with emotion. As soon as these words came out, everyone present agreed. The strength of the Millennium family is needless to say. They are trying their best to get in touch with the children of the aristocratic family, don't they just want to get a thigh? It's a pity that I have been unable to enter the door. Li Changfeng couldn't help but secretly sighed and shook his head. Then, he turned around suddenly, looked at Qin Mo who was talking to Su Yin by the window, and said calmly, go to the cafeteria and buy some dinner. After all, Li Changfeng turned around and chatted with Wang Yan and the others without waiting for Qin Mo to agree. It's as if he doesn't have arms and legs. Su Yin muttered. Qin Mo smiled slightly and didn't care. He got up from his side and said, okay, Sister Su, what do you want to eat? I'll go with you. Su Yin wanted to get up. No, Qin Mo pressed her shoulders and said with a smile, I'll go, Sister Sue, you're wet in the rain and your clothes are still dry, you'll catch cold easily when you go out. Oh, the handsome guy is concerned about me. Su Yin smiled. I don't care who Sister Sue cares about. Chin Mo joked that the smile on Su Yin's face became more intense. On the way to the cafeteria, Chin Mo's thoughts were flying, and he muttered to himself. It turns out that thing is elemental crystallization. Last time, I accidentally overheard the conspiracy of the Tiandaway, saying that the elemental crystallization will be transported to the imperial capital in a short period of time. I thought it was because they had some channels, but I didn't expect to grab it directly from the Security Bureau. Quote, his current intelligence has reached 37 points, and his analysis and deduction abilities are quite strong. According to various clues, Chin Mo logically guessed what the ice pick in the box was. However, let alone, grabbing it directly is indeed the easiest way. Relying on the inner ghost they planted, it is basically impossible for the Tiandaway to lose, but it is a pity that the inner ghost has counted everything, but Chin Mo is the only one not counted. As the saying goes, if one mistake is made, the whole game is lost. In fact, the Tiandaway did not deserve to lose. However, the tip of the iceberg revealed by this power is already huge enough to surprise Chin Mo. I don't know how the Security Bureau will respond. Chin Mo thought to himself, but what does this have to do with him as an ordinary team member? He just wants to live his own peaceful life without being disturbed by others. Not long after, Chin Mo packed 10 dinners in the cafeteria, and brought back 5 groups of 7 in one hand. He distributed the dinner to Li Changfeng, Su Yin and the others, kept a portion for himself, and walked towards the small office with the last portion. Since everyone has it, Li Yuan cannot be left behind. But who would have thought that Chin Mo had just reached the door of the small office and was about to reach out to knock on the door, when suddenly Li Changfeng came striding forward, took the dinner from him involuntarily, and said calmly, go and eat, I'll just send it to the team leader. He obviously wanted to take this opportunity to offer a wave of courtesy. Chin Mo was slightly taken aback. He immediately realized the purpose of this guy, couldn't help smiling in his heart, and said to himself, it's not beautiful, but it's beautiful in thinking. However, he didn't say anything. He walked over to the desk and sat down next to Su Yin. At this time, Li Changfeng had already entered the small office, and just as he was about to speak, Li Yuan raised his head and glanced at him indifferently. Seeing this, Li Changfeng's words suddenly became extremely heavy, and he finally just said, team leader, dinner is here. Well, let it go. Li Yuan lowered his head again. Li Changfeng said, yes. Close the door. Yes. During the brief conversation, Li Changfeng's heart was already filled with bitterness. Li Yuan is like a princess, she is high above her, she doesn't pay any attention to him at all, let alone the slightest bit. Afterwards, after dinner, everyone left and prepared to go home. It was still raining outside, so Chin Mo got into Su Yin's car this time and was sent home by her. Su Yin rolled down the car window, looked at Chin Mo standing at the door of the house, and asked with a smile. Why, don't you invite my sister to come in and sit down? Does Sister Su dare to come? There is no one else in my family, so it is most convenient. Hearing this, Su Yin glanced at Chin Mo's waist, cut it, turned her head and said, farewell, I'm afraid that some people have silver-like pewter heads, and they look good but they don't work. Sister Su hasn't used it, so how do you know? Chin Mo asked back. Come on, go home, take a shower and go to sleep. My sister will use it next time. It won't work in the past few days. I can't let you fight bloody battles, right? There was a buzzing sound, the engine started, and the car drove away from Guanghong Street. Chin Mo looked at the fading headlights, clicked his lips, took out the key, inserted it into the lock, and opened the door. In this way, there is nothing to say all night. The next day, Chin Mo continued to work and fish as usual. The heavy rain last night seemed to have washed the sky clean. Today is a rare sunny day with no clouds and excellent light. Seeing this, Chin Mo couldn't help but smile. Sufficient light means that more light energy points can be accumulated. In this way, I kept fishing until the afternoon. Watching Li Yuan in the small office take off his white socks and put those white and delicate feet into the hot water, a warm current flowed through Chin Mo's body. Light energy points. 18, freely assignable. He reluctantly withdrew his eyes, focused his eyes on his eyes, and prepared to allocate today's points. Needless to say, eyesight, strength, speed and defense, add 2 points to each. For the remaining 10 points, Chinmo added 3 points to intelligence and recovery, put aside hearing and breathing first, and allocated 2 points to each. The warm current quickly covered his whole body, enhancing his various attributes. Recovery, 37, the skill heals quickly, and the ability to recover quickly strengthens. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.